Design Board meeting for December 4th, 2023. If we could please take roll call.
Yes, thank you. I'll proceed with roll call. Chair Kalas,
Yes?
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Present.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
I think
I'm
we-
sorry, Board Member Anderson. I did say Vice Chair Anderson.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Missed you altogether.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will open general business to item A, public comment. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to come to the mic and spend 2 minutes discussing any issue that they believe to be under the purview of this board. I will ask Ms. Safel to please manage that process.
Thank you, Chair Kalas. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips. If anyone wishes to comment, they may fill out a slip and bring it to me. We did receive several correspondence via email, of which we had, let me go back, there were quite a few, so let me get these. Oh, not for general. I'm sorry, no, we did not receive any for general, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Chair Kalas.
Okay. So my understanding is that we are reintroducing online public commenting. Are we operating under those conditions at this hearing, or when does that recommence?
Chair Kloss, board members, to your point, we took a brief pause with offering public comment through Zoom. Today, City Council resumed offering public comment through Zoom, and we will all resume, meaning like the advisory board, starting next Monday on the 11th.
Great,
So
thank you.
we're not taking public comment through Zoom today, but at the next full board hearing, we'll have that available.
So that would actually be on the 18th, I believe, because the 11th would just be consent calendar, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go through approval of meeting minutes. We're going to start with the Single Family Design Board meeting of November 6th. If we could please pull those up. So I'm going to ask Ms. Garfidi, Lewis, and Sherry to provide any comments if they have any, or just to let us know if they are in agreement with the meeting minutes as drafted, because I was not present for that hearing. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, I'm seeing 3 nods to the contrary. So we will go ahead and take roll call. So I'm going to abstain from this item. Would somebody else please make a motion for ratification? Somebody that was present?
I'll make a motion.
I second approving the minutes.
Okay, and if we could take roll call, please.
Yes. Chair Kalas,
Abstains.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Abstain.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the consent minutes from November 13th. This item, as I understand, was canceled because the person that was scheduled to attend was unable to, and so this draft set of meeting minutes is simply memorializing that the meeting was postponed. Point of order, I really don't know what we do here in terms of ratifying this. Do these in fact need to be ratified?
Yes, we do need to have that on record.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to ratify the meeting minutes that memorialize that this meeting was canceled and applicants were informed and postponed to the following consent calendar.
I'll second that.
If we could take a roll call, please.
Chair Kalas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry? Motion passes.
All right, trucking right along. So this is the November 20th consent calendar, I believe. Ms. Anderson was present. So Ms. Anderson, if you could let us know whether you've reviewed these and have any comments, please.
I do have a couple of comments on the Oliver Road item, item 1, or A, sorry, and then in 2, can you add before the beginning of the sentence, the exterior finish revision from horizontal siding to cement plaster, and then just leave the rest? So,
Okay.
does that make sense?
And then you'd be deleting siding after the word plaster.
Cement plaster, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, cement plaster is not siding, so scratch that siding after plaster, but everything after that is good. It's not perfect, but it's good. Item 3, if you could add in between the new window package, if you can add with minor revisions to the sizes.
Vice Chair, are you on item C 806? Can you
I'm sorry, no,
specify?
I'm on item A,
Okay.
and this would be 3.
Okay, so what was the requested change there?
Okay, let me read it and make sure. So the new window package is good, but if you could add with, after package, add with minor revisions to the sizes
Okay.
for the entire house is consistent with the previously approved styles and colors, because there's multiple window styles and colors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And then on item number B, sorry, I'm going fast. Okay, we have nothing there. I guess I'm on item C. Can you just scratch in A, the project is a remodel? I would just scratch the minor to major. It's kind of irrelevant and doesn't make sense because it should be one or the other. So just scratch minor to major there in that sentence.
Okay.
And then I have on 7, item 7.
Number 7 for item C.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, after new, it's Santa Barbara sandstone, just to be crystal clear there.
Okay.
And that's it. Can I make a motion to approve? No.
Yes, you can. So if you,
Okay.
yeah, you can make a motion to approve with the amendments you noted.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve these minutes for the consent 1120 with the amendments that I just made.
I'll second that. If we could take a roll call, please.
Yes. Chair Claus,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry. Motion passes.
Okay, great. We're zipping right through these. So this is the November 27th consent calendar draft minutes. This was attended by myself and Ms. Sherry. I reviewed these, and for the items that I weighed in on, I felt like they were acceptable. Ms. Sherry, I don't know if you have any comments?
No comments. I'll make a motion for approval for the consent agenda for November 27th.
I'll second that. If we could have a roll call.
Okay. Chair Claus,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Okay, one more, and then we have this morning's consent minutes from December 4th. Ms. Lewis was present for that. I I don't know if you've had,
I did take a look at them, and they're correct from this morning.
great. Okay, so I'll make a motion for approval of the consent calendar meeting minutes for December 4th.
Second?
And if we could have a roll call, please.
Chair Claus,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Okay, the next item is item D, which is announcements, requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. So question for staff, is there any associated items?
Chair Claus, I have announcements.
Okay.
And I think Ms. Garson does as well. I'll start off with an update on the Single Family Design Board process improvement effort.
Okay,
I'm really eager to share with you what we've been working on. However, we have to wait till what we have, or we have to wait till our draft ordinance and what we've been working on has been internally vetted and is ready to be discussed at the board and at other public forums. So I wanted to have a discussion item.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what you just said? And other public forums? Could you explain
Yeah, so
that,
that would
please?
be, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec, but we'd be going to Planning Commission and Ordinance Committee with specifically the updated ordinance draft.
And that would be prior to our board?
That would be after your board.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Like I said, eager to share. We did want to prioritize projects for this, the last couple of hearings of this year, so it was a little too soon to get in front of the board with a discussion item. Plus, we need to make sure it's vetted. So at the October 26th Land Development Team Oversight Subcommittee meeting, staff gave a brief presentation on the process improvement effort and just outlined what we're doing and sought general support, and we got it. So generally what we're trying to do is reduce the number of overall projects that SFDB sees and increase the threshold for a public hearing. So essentially we want to only see the most important projects in front of the full board and still keep oversight over those big deal projects that you get, but try to reduce the amount of oversight on smaller things like window changes and re-roofs, projects that really kind of don't need a public hearing. And that's what we heard from our outreach to the board and to the public and in our focus groups that we did with this process improvement effort. So some questions from the committee, the LDTO committee, were they asked about how this will affect how long it takes to get through the process. We estimate that just by cutting down on projects, we'll see a significant reduction in the amount of time it takes projects to get through, especially those smaller ones. Larger projects, brand new houses in the hillside, probably take about the same amount of time as they currently do. But like I said, those window changes and re-roofs, things like that, will take less. And we also hope to come back to SFDB probably in February 2024 with a vetted draft ordinance. That'll be a discussion item. City Council will be the ultimate decision maker on the ordinance, but we want to get your feedback before we proceed with going to Planning Commission. So that's all I've got. This isn't an agenda item for today, so I want to limit questions, but just wanted to give you an update on where we are, and I will email you all with a video of that meeting so you can watch it if you like.
Thank you very much. So just to be clear, Mr. Hamilton, the draft ordinance would come to our board first for comments and then to PC, Planning Commission, and the Ordinance Committee, and then ultimately to City Council? Or is there an order in which those would be, or would they all be blasted out at one time for comments from the various boards and the public?
I don't have an answer on how specifically we'll do it yet, but I believe we'll hold the SFDB discussion item first.
Okay.
And I believe it'll be iterative. So based on comments we received from the board, if there are any major things, we'll go back and we can try to incorporate those.
Okay.
That's as far as I know at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and we'll look forward to getting the video link.
Chair Colossus, board members, a
Yes.
couple other announcements. And just to reiterate during this section of our hearing, again, public participation through Zoom will return to this board beginning the December 11th, but the next scheduled full board hearing is December 18th. And then also Sebastian Herrick sent out the 2024 consent reviewer schedule. That should be in your inbox as of this morning. It looks like each member is assigned to 9 hearings, so please take a look at that. And if you know up front that you need to switch out, please coordinate that with a fellow board member if possible, and then let us know as staff. We'll update that schedule and get it out to you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other announcements from staff or the board?
That's all from us.
Okay, great. Okay, I don't believe there are any subcommittee reports. Mr. Hamilton shared with us the closest thing to a subcommittee report we have. So we will move on to actual agenda items for the day. And we will start with 691 North Hope Avenue. This is here today for final approval. An annexation from the County of Santa Barbara into the City of Santa Barbara General Plan Amendment, rezoning, and tentative subdivision map and modification were approved by City Council in January of 2020. The project that's before us today is a proposal to construct a new 2,426 square foot, 2-story, single-unit residence with an attached 465 square foot garage on Lot 5 of the newly created lots within the 6-lot subdivision. The proposed total of 2,891 square feet on a 9,015 square foot lot is 84% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. Final approval is requested. Project plans require substantial conformance to the plans that received PDA on April 25th, 2022, which was when the project was last reviewed by the board. So we will want to ask the applicant to introduce themselves and introduce and run through the meeting minutes from the April 25th of 2022 meeting, and then run us through the plans and any associated changes or responses that were made to those meeting minutes, so that we can confirm whether this was in substantial conformance.
And also, real quick, Holly, these 2 screens are not working. Will you guys try and, are you fully logged in on that laptop?
It was not turned on.
Hello? Okay, just checking, make sure
It
it's
said
working.
no signal, but it's black. Oh,
Oh, here, let me move these.
thanks. Theirs is on now. What did you press to turn it on?
It's the power button, right? But your power button was on the valve, so it's not receiving a signal.
Well, I've got the drawings on my laptop if they say what page they're on.
This is just the
And I'll
title
glance at
sheet.
this one. Oh, ooh.
It takes,
Okay.
there's a pause. If you push the.
There we go,
pause,
thank
yeah,
you.
You have to exhibit a little patience. It takes a
Okay.
couple seconds.
Is it gonna show up? Yeah, okay, perfect.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for your patience while I
Of
work
course.
through that. If you could go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jolie Waugh. I'm an architect with the RRM Design Group, and I also have with us Gabby Trellis, who's a designer with the RRM Design Group as well. Okay, so today we are bringing you back to Lot 5 of the 691 North Hope subdivision. I guess, do you want us to go through what you've already designated here?
You know what, before we begin, I would just like affirmation from the board members that you have reviewed the history of this project before we begin hearing it, because that's going to be significant. I think I've been the only one present to watch this go through the whole process. So I just want to make sure we have enough people to have quorum on this item before we put you through the ringer here. If we could start, Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I reviewed videos and minutes.
Okay, Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Garfighty?
Yes.
And Ms. Sherry?
I did not review all of the videos.
Okay. Did you review the most recent video or minutes? Okay, so Ms. Sherry will abstain, so the four of us will be weighing in on this. Okay.
Chair
Okay,
Colas,
and-
board members, pardon my interruption. Board member Sherry, you can ask questions. You just can't comment or vote in the motion. And then I also have the meeting minutes available on my screen, and the applicant has access as well.
Okay, great.
Okay.
And we have staff here. Did you want to share anything with us before the applicant began?
I don't have anything right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so to repeat from the meeting minutes, through the top here is that the annexation, this is similar to what you just read, but the annexation from
Can you
the,
just bring those up on the screen, please? I think they're
Yes.
the first tab after tools. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, would you like me to read that motion up there, read through those, or?
We're really just looking for you to,
We-
to run through the items that required you to effect change
Okay,
in the drawings, and then
Yes.
show us where you've done that.
okay. So in
then-
response to the items there on the motion, so the first one is provide an accurate representation of the mullions and the window details on the plans. So on the elevations, basically, most of the windows are casements and sliders. There are a few fixed windows, so essentially there are very few mullions. Actually, it's a much more wide-open, contemporary kind of look. As far as the details on the windows, the exterior framing of this home, the exterior walls is 2x8 framing, so most of the windows, actually all the windows will be deep set so that we will receive shadow lines and, delineation that way with the deep set windows. And then as far as, and we do have those details in the drawing set.
Okay,
Those
so
are-
if you could just tell us, if you could just walk us through the drawings and very simply show us where you've addressed those in the plans. So
Okay.
where do we see the elevations of the windows in the plans? Where do we see the jamb, sill, head details? Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the windows do not have any mullions to address that comment. You can see on A201 and A202 and the following page, A203, depictions of the styles of the windows. And as far as the details go, we do have a windows and doors detail sheet that further covers in depth the jambs, the headers, of each style of window and door
Okay.
on A903.
Okay, great. And basically, what you were saying, I believe, Ms. Law, is that they basically just have a plaster return. to-
Correct, yes.
Okay.
They have a simple plaster return that comes back to the frame of the window.
Okay, great.
Okay. And then the next comment regarding illustrating the downspout locations on the exterior elevations and on the floor plans. So we have added the downspouts and leader boxes have been added to the elevations. They are square in profile, and there'll be a dark bronze color. On the elevations, you can, it's fairly light, but if you can highlight that, Gabby, you can see.
You can see them here, 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 and just in the different locations where we are proposing those downspouts.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And then on the third item, where the request was to study the mass and return with a proposal to resolve the apparent disparity of the breezeway element with the rest of the residents. We did look at this. In the previous design, the breezeway element was actually designated to be an off-white stucco color, which I think accentuated that mass, and it stood out a lot more against the warmer and deeper tones of the residence. We actually instead designated that we would take the color. We looked at it a lot of different ways with different materials, and decided that if we were to take that mass and we actually took it to a deeper, darker stucco tone to match the existing stucco tone that are other parts of the home, that it actually blends more as far as the overall elevation goes. And then we are also looking at this as a great opportunity to be able to use it as a backdrop for landscape and growing vines and such to soften the element.
Okay.
Okay. The next item is replace the project site palm trees on the southern property line with an alternative. We actually do not have any palm trees proposed on that southern property line. You can see that in the landscape plan, I believe. And that's L 2.1. It was.
Yeah, I think there was some concern about how those would do with the future swale, if I'm remembering right.
Correct. There is a swale back there, and so there are no palm trees proposed back in that area.
Okay.
And then 5, the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria have been met. I'm going to read through these motions. The proposed development is consistent with the scenic character of the city, and it will enhance the appearance of the neighborhood, specifically due to the change in nature of the roof line to a more traditional roof line, a decrease in the second floor square footage, and the residence is well below the allowable height limit. The B component is the proposed development is compatible with the neighborhood in its size, bulk, and scale, and is appropriate to the site and the neighborhood.
You know, in the interest of time, you don't have to
I
read
don't have
through
to read
all
them
of
all.
these
Okay,
unless
thank
they're,
you.
unless they're items that
There are not.
usher in a further change to the
There are
drawings. Yeah.
not. That last item that required a response. The rest of these are all just noted. We're noting the comments that were made by the board and appreciate them. Thank you. The last item that we needed to respond to was item number 4.
Okay. And then can you run us through any other changes that might have occurred? And again, this is just exterior changes or landscaping or civil changes that may, I'll say, deviate. So they didn't necessarily, they weren't furthered, but they are changing the design of the project. So if there was anything else that's changing the height, the footprint, the window fenestration, things of that deviate from the last set of plans, we would need to know about those. So ideally, we'd be looking at the previous set of plans.
Correct.
Maybe the site plan and the exterior elevations, just to confirm that they are in fact in conformance.
Correct. Okay. So the one thing that we did want to note, actually, that we realized as we were walking through this, on the front elevation, if you looked at the previous elevation, you'll see that window right there that Gabby is pointing to. That window will actually, in our new set of plans, that window should actually be remaining. That was, if we noticed it, it was an error in the working drawing set, so that will be corrected because the window should be as it's shown there, opposed to what you see in the set here. Because here you'll see a casement window in place of that. And it should actually be the other window.
So, okay, I'll hold my
Okay.
thoughts for questions.
Okay.
Okay, so that is so if you could just show us each elevation.
Okay.
And assure us that that's the only change we'd
Okay,
be
yes.
seeing, or point out
Okay.
any other changes,
Well,
please?
and I don't know to what degree as far as, the garage doors, are originally, we had proposed that we'd like them to be a stained wood, panel, broken panel garage door. There's 20 lights there. In the interest of, cost evaluations and such, the owner is looking at instead going with, instead of a stained wood, it's actually a metal door that has a wood finish on it. The configuration that you see here is more in line with the manufacturer that was producing that. We would like to actually see if we can further explore and research to see if we can find something a little bit closer to what we had originally proposed, but we did want to show you at this point what was indicated there.
Okay.
The only, let's see, the other change is, I think originally in the original elevation, there is a plank wood door at the entry, right? And instead, it will still be a wood door, but it is, instead of a plank wood door with a separate side light next to it, it is a combined mold. It is a wood door with a side light, but not two completely separate. And it would be not a vertical plank, it would be a horizontal plank. Okay, as far as the only other thing that is different, it isn't really different, it's just a matter of how you're looking at it, I think, is in the perspective in the elevation drawings, you are seeing the garden walls in the front of the elevation. The garden walls are remaining just in our working drawing set. The section, the elevation is cut inside the garden walls, but those stone garden walls are still remaining. And so you will still see those from the street elevation.
Okay.
And I think that's it, yeah, as far as I can tell. Well, that was part of adding the mullions, is the fact that obviously that's a bedroom window. It is changed so that we actually are able to obtain egress, opposed to having a fixed window there.
We like egress. It's
Yeah,
always
we
good.
appreciate egress.
Right, yeah, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I can think of right now.
Guardrail detailing stayed the same, exterior lighting stayed the same.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, great. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we go to public comment?
No, I think we're fine at this point, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so at this time, and you have 4 minutes left, if you need it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we will go ahead and open this item to public comment.
Okay, thank you, Chair Kloss. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they can fill out a slip and please bring it to me. We did receive a letter of correspondence on this from Mr. Brian Costa. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Kloss.
Thank you. So we did receive correspondence from Mr. Costa, and just to reassure him that his letter was received and read, I have a question for staff, just so we have it on record. Mr. Costa noted that he was concerned that the public had only received 24 hours notice, or was only given materials 24 hours prior to the hearing. My understanding is that items are typically uploaded on Thursday afternoons or evenings, and I just want to receive confirmation or clarification from staff as to when everything was uploaded, just for the record, please.
Yes, Chair Claus, board members, the plans are posted end of day online Thursday prior to the public hearing. And if a member is listed as an interested party, they would also receive an email notification with the agenda. And the plans are still linked to the agenda, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And also, due to the fact that there was a holiday, these were posted a day earlier.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much for that. Sounds like there's no one here to speak to this, Ms. Safel?
That is correct.
Okay, so we will close public comment and we will open the item up to the board for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
First, do you have a detail that shows the sidewalk cap? I was flipping through and trying to see. Do you have a cap on top of that, or is the stacked stone edging?
Sorry. It's a Santa Barbara stone veneer with, in an ashlar pattern. At this point, I don't believe there was any type of cap. We were hoping to keep it a little more modern in feeling so that there wouldn't be sort of an overlying, extending, projecting cap on the top.
I think that's my main question right now.
Okay. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Yeah, just a question around the breezeway. That element you did not push back, you just changed the color and softened with plantings.
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
All right. And the Santa Barbara sandstone is just a site wall, and then you actually have manufactured stone on the house.
On that entry piece right there.
Okay.
Yeah, just on the front entry.
Okay, thank you.
And just, I'll speak to that item for a second, Ms. Anderson, just because I do have a little background. So there were discussions, as I recall, and please correct me if I'm wrong, about the use of sandstone, introduction of it on the house versus, and the compromise effectively that was made was we'd like to see native sandstone in the landscape, but the board was accepting of the manufactured stone on the residences themselves, provided that they be in a sandstone color range and generally reflective of that. So that's, just so you know. Okay, Ms. Sherry, did you want to ask any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Grafiti?
No.
Okay. I had two questions, and they relate to the items, the two questions that were already asked. So can we see the landscape plan? I'm trying to understand, you had made a comment about darkening up the breezeway mass, and that there's some hope that eventually that will be maybe covered in some landscaping. So I'm wondering if we have vine pockets that are planned for that area. The rendering shows some vines kind of up at the top there, so I'm just trying to understand how this is going to
Right, there.
correlate.
Oh, there we go. There should be planting areas if you can, let's see, can we go to that breezeway area? If we, yeah, and if you can see, so there are just open pavers there, so all of that area is actually all planted area. And the stepping stones are just set within that planting area, so the thought there is obviously there will be some planting, vines planted in those particular areas, and they can.
So can you show me which ones are vines on the planting schedule?
I do not know. I do not know that we actually have the vines listed in there, the drawings at this point.
FM. The symbols are so small, it's hard to
I know,
read.
that's what I'm trying to, I don't know that they are in there, and I can't. We're trying to zoom in.
Yeah, FM and DC look like the two. DC is a casa. It's a festuca.
Fescue is like a grass.
Right.
Festuca is what's a festuca? I'm not a landscape architect, so I'm,
It's like that's a grass, yeah.
well, it's a festuca, though. I don't know if that's the same as a fescue. That's why I'm,
Well, they probably have a little picture of it.
right,
On another page,
okay.
I would think.
I'm gonna wait for this to, it is, yeah, it's the same thing. It's a perennial. They're the same thing. They're basically the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
grass.
fescue, like a grass.
Grass, okay. And then the second question that I had was also related to the veneer sandstone. So on the material board, you have reflected a veneer. It's not really a traditional ashlar pattern that's grouted. And again, like Ms. Lewis was asking, I'm trying to understand how, because it is a veneer, how you are terminating that at the top. Are you mitering the outside corner of the material? Are you butt joining it where we're going to see an edge, but it's not going to sit proud?
It's not going to sit proud. It's most likely going to be something like that, because I don't think that the mitering, I mean, if you're going to obviously have pieces across the top that are a cap piece. And then if we were to miter to the front, because it's a veneer, I think it will most likely be butt jointed instead.
So you would see the thickness on the top?
You could see the thickness
from
of the cap
elevation.
piece, but we can probably go with a thicker cap piece so it doesn't look like a very thin little piece.
Okay.
Oh, did you have a preference?
Okay. And so you're saying an ashlar pattern is, so what I'm seeing here is it's not grouted. Are you intending to have it grouted? I mean, I drive by Roosevelt School all the time, and that's like the most recent sort of like vast area of ashlar
Right.
sandstone that I can kind of think of in my mind. Is that kind of the look that you're going for, or is there some other look? Because this is very different. That's why I'm asking.
Right. I mean, I think our preference is we were, obviously because the homes all have an edge nod to a modern character. I think if we wanted to bring in the stone, but we wanted to sort of give it a more rectilinear type of pattern so that it would feel a little bit more modern. Our preference would be to have a dry stack look, so that the pieces are fitted closer together, so that you don't have a lot of visible mortar.
Okay. Okay. Those, the only other question I have is about the window. And it's because I recall maybe a couple of hearings ago that one of the windows, and I don't know if it was that one or not, was of concern from a design standpoint. And I think it was because of the proximity to the rake and/or how modern it looked compared to the houses, which we were trying to get to look a little bit more like the traditional track houses in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, I mean, as far as, the window will actually, from the previous rendering, it will actually come down in size. I think the reason to sort of keep that there was actually to sort of nod back to that modern edge. The thing is also is that is in the, that's the master bedroom, and those views from that towards the north there are out towards the mountains. And so there was a desire to sort of highlight that and sort of have that be a picture window. We do have doors that go out to the deck and balcony area to handle the egress. And then we do have operable windows next to the either side of the bed. So there is, and obviously, and the bottom of the window would be more like a hopper or awning type of thing if we wanted to try to, get some cross ventilation across there. But as far as the distance to the rake, there was a concern, but if you'll notice that the roof has actually been lowered. The pitch of the roof, if you look at the new elevation, that the pitch of that entry has actually been lowered, so that we do have more room to be able to sort of add that particular. I don't know that it needs to be quite as large as what you see on the original elevation, but it would be nice to have that picture window to accentuate that mountain view.
So in this iteration that we're looking at, the head of the master and the head of the other window above the single story, those look like they're at the same head height?
That's at 8 feet.
Okay, and then in the other iteration.
It is taller. As I said, I don't think it needs to be that tall. It should be smaller than that. It should be reduced, but I do think having that nice picture window and having something a little bit different in shape to sort of also just bring your eye to the center of the elevation.
So I want to be very clear on what's being asked of us today, because we have a set of drawings that's in front of us for final, but that's not what's being represented in the drawings. And this is problematic, because when staff goes back to look at drawings, they're comparing it, and if there's deviation, it becomes difficult. So
Okay,
I
well-
just want to be very clear on what is being asked. So basically, you're saying, we want what's in front of you today, but we want window E1 on the old set. Is that what's
Correct.
being asked?
Correct. And if it is an issue, we can go back to what's on the set, but
Well, would you mind if you zoom in on that elevation, what the difference is for that, if you could draw over it or something with your cursor of what the changes are in that window? Like, is it going to come in width-wise? Oh, it's going to be
No.
the same width?
no, it's going to be the same width.
Oh, got it.
It's just that it's,
Okay, so it dips lower.
right.
Okay, and the head height really can't come up because of your eave condition on the story, on the pop out to the left, is that right?
Correct. Unless the window is shifted over, yes.
And then it's going to start getting close to that
Right,
parapet that's
exactly.
on the
So-
breezeway, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all right. Okay,
And as I said, if it's concern, if it is something that is, going to not lead us towards approval, we can leave it the way it is.
I think we can manage.
Okay.
So let's, I don't have any other questions. Do we want to go on to comments? Ms.
A
Lewis, do
very
you have any
last
questions?
question was just, if the
Sure.
garage now in the change, does that mean there's no glass on the top level of the garage now?
No, there is glass.
There will still be on that
There still
panel.
will be glass.
It's just not divided.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
just not, at this point, yeah, as I said, we need to do more research to see if we can find a product that will give us exactly what we want.
Nicely stated. Good luck.
Okay. Okay, did you have any comments, Ms. Lewis?
I think it generally conforms to what received project design approval. I think the intent of some of the design discussion before was to try and push towards mullions, but I understand why you don't, and if that's going to be consistent in the neighborhood, which it appears to be even looking at Lot 6, I can get behind that, even though I'm a fan of some muttons and mullions. I think the color change for the breezeway, it looks compatible and looks nice. I would highly suggest the plantings. I think it would be really nice and would work in with the design. I'm a little bit nervous with that site wall, but I think we're on the same page of making sure the cap, that they look like real thick pieces, even as it turns, and I can get on board. And I think the change to the front door is totally valid and nice.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
Agreed. I believe we're ready to approve. The conditions have been met. I'm not worried about the details.
Okay, Ms. Graffiti, any comments?
And no additional comments. I agree with everything that's been said.
Okay. And I would normally ask Ms. Sherry, but she's unable to comment, so I'm not trying to be rude. Okay, I'm generally in agreement. I think I would like to, if we do make a motion for final, I would like to place conditions on the window so that there's clear parameters related to that on the front elevation. my recommendations would be the head height must match the head height of that on the pop-out that is to the, I guess it would be the east, and that the window remain in its current location left to right, that it not change in width, and that it at least have, 8 inches of relief from where the lower roof element meets the wall that it's within. You're going to need that for flashing anyhow. I agree about a thick cap piece for the site walls. And I personally don't like the color of stains that are proposed. I feel like they're super cherry, super red looking, but that I understand is a personal preference, and I don't think it's a deal killer. I think we've still, for all the wrangling that these projects went through, I feel like we've got something that's generally compatible in terms of size, bulk, and scale, and congratulations on that, because it's been a long haul. So,
And if need be, would you be acceptable when you're talking about the wall if they were able to miter it so that, again, it looked continuous as stone, or you prefer the heavier, thicker?
I
cap
would
piece?
personally prefer a thick cap piece,
Okay.
even if it didn't sit proud, or maybe if it just slightly sat proud. I think the intent there was that the homes could look more contemporary, but that we were trying to really cite them in a way that they felt grounded in sort of the
Yes.
history of town.
Yes.
And so I think it's important that they have a more traditional ashlar appearance to them, and that they have a thicker
Okay.
stone piece on the top. Mitering is not very successful most of the time
Yeah.
unless you've got amazing craftsmen out there.
Yeah, then it'll be dependent on, yeah.
And then I would like to see some vines. I agree. I think it would be nice to see some vines in the planting pockets for the breezeway. So those would be my comments, and I'm welcome to take a motion from any of the board members if they'd like to make one, or I can try to put words to one.
I'll make a motion to approve for final approval with the following conditions. Condition 1 is the front elevation. Master bedroom window is to be window E1 from the previous set of documents. It also is to have a head height that matches the pop-out to the east. I know that makes sense to Leslie, I believe. And that the window not change position east to west or right to left. And then, of course, it's going to be at least 8 inches or more above the roofing below. Condition number 2 would be the breezeway. Planting pockets in front primarily, probably around the side, that we would add vines in the planters to grow up the faces of the breezeway to reduce its scale. And condition number 3, that we add a thick cap piece on the Santa Barbara Stone site wall, and that it maintain that traditional ashlar style, and, I don't know, with as least mortar as possible, or dry stack. And there might be more, but someone else is going to have to chime in.
Chair Kalas,
Okay,
Vice
I'll-
Chair Anderson, if I may, just to clarify the motion, if you agree, should be the final approval plan substantially conform to the drawings that received project design approval on April 25th, 2022.
Okay, yes. The drawings that are submitted substantially conform to the previous set of documents. What was the date on those? It's probably right
That
in front of me.
received project design approval on April 25th.
Oh, that received project design approval on April 25th, 2022. Yes, thank you. And it is a full set of documents with structural, mechanical, all a storm, nice set of documents. Thank you for that.
I'll second that, but I'd like to ask that we modify the language in regards to the window. I think it's confusing to say that it matches E1 from the previous set and yet put these parameters on it. So I would prefer to just, rather than referring to E1, I think if we can just keep the parameters that were that you had enumerated, head height to match, width to match. It can get taller, which means that the sill would get lower. I think that's a simpler way of doing it. And then I would like to put a specific thickness in the meeting minutes in regards to the stone cap, that they would be a minimum of 2.5 inches in thickness and a maximum of 3 inches. And that they would have a bush hammered edge to them or a chiseled edge, so they would not have a cut edge. If that's acceptable to the maker of the motion.
Sure.
Okay. So that's accepted, and that's, I guess, re-seconded. And if we can take a roll call.
Yes. Chair Kalas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Congratulations. That does usher in a 10-day appeal period for the project. If you want to submit prior, you can work with staff, I'm sure, to do that. The appeal process is on the screen for any member of the public that's interested. They can contact the planning counter at santabarbaraca.gov. Okay, we will move on to item number 2, which is also 691 North Hope Avenue. It is effectively the same description, with the exception that this is a proposal to construct a new 3,121 square foot, 2-story single-unit residence with an attached 461 square foot garage. And this is on Lot 6 of the newly created 6-lot subdivision. The proposed total of 3,582 square feet on this 13,736 square foot lot is 85% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. This project is before us for final approval also. It will also require substantial conformance to the plans that received project design approval on March 28th of 2022, which was when the project was last reviewed. So again, I will ask you to go through the same process, bring up the meeting minutes from that hearing of March 28th, run us through any action items that were in the meeting minutes, just show us specifically where those have been addressed in the plans, and anything else that has changed on the exterior elevations and site plan.
Okay. All right. So as far as in addressing the comments and the findings, item number 1, there was question as to our study of the fenestration of the street-facing elevation of the house to move the bathroom windows at the second floor level to the west and to reduce the height of the stairwell fenestration in order to make it less modern. We studied these design elements. We did make some adjustments to the bathroom windows. However, as far as moving them to the west elevation, if we were to look at that west elevation, if you want to go to A 2.01, as you can see, there is the west elevation to start out with, and then we can go there. As you can see, the slope of the roof there, where the top of that rake meets the wall, leaves not much space. So we did add an operable window there in the bathroom, but we were not able to, we would not move all of the windows over to the west elevation. I think also, again, now we can go back to the north elevation. That is the primary bathroom suite, and the window, we did make a change at that window, where that larger window is actually where, above where the tub is in that bathroom. And there was a desire by the owner to enlarge that window from the two smaller windows that were there previously to try and capture more of a mountain view. That window does sit up higher, though, so it is not, basically you're not looking at the tub from the front yard. And also, this particular house is set on a flag lot, so there is no actual visible, view to the front elevation, except for by the owners themselves when they're coming up to the residence.
Oh, I was just going to ask, show us the previous, yes, okay, she read my mind.
And then as far as the stair window goes, we actually reduced it in height, but we chose to actually leave that taller configuration, that shape. We thought that the house itself, even though it has been given a more traditional roof shape in the gable and such, the owner does have a very strong desire to keep a modern edge to the home. And so we did elect to keep that same shape, though it is a little bit smaller in size. It extends from the landing of the stair up through the stairwell. Okay, the next item here would be number 2. It says, if pool equipment is to be added, it shall be placed as far away as possible from the western property line and appropriately screened both visually and acoustically. So if we can please go to sheet L 1.1 and 2.1, but let's start with 1.1. As you can see from this site plan, you can see the location of the pool, and then the pool equipment is to the left. We've tried to pull it as far away from the western property line as we can, but there is a wall there adjacent to the end of the pool, which does screen the pool equipment. And then you can see that has water elements that are related to the pool design. And then there on the planting plan, we wanted to illustrate that there is planting proposed along the property line edge there to also help with screening. There is also a wall obviously between the neighbor's property and this particular property, so that again will also help with the acoustics. And there is quite a bit of planting all around the pool area and where that pool equipment area is. Okay, and then item number 3. Oh, that was it. Sorry. The rest of the items were comments that were duly noted and appreciated.
Boilerplate findings and things of that
Thank you.
nature. Okay, all right. Were there any other changes in site planning or exterior elevations that we should be made aware of outside of the ones we asked you to take action on?
I think that there was, I think the initial front door was a double door. That door has been changed to a single pivot door with side lights on either side. And then I think the materials are still the same. There's some refinement around the back elevation as far as the chimney, some refinement at the stairs coming off the deck, railings.
So
some
can we
stucco.
say, can we see each set of, so can you show us the previously approved elevation and then switch over, show us the current one in front
Sure.
of us for each elevation? That's the easiest way to do it, is let's look at
Sure.
the north,
Okay.
south, the south, the east, the east. That'd be great.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so when you look at the front, the north elevation, as you can see, that front door is no longer the double door. That's where we indicated it would be. You pull down to that elevation, you can see there's a single center door with two side lights on either side. The windows that we talked about above it, which were windows into the primary bath. And then the windows on the mass to the right, or sorry, no, if you can go back up to the front elevation. Those windows are smaller over this, correct, and that gable elevation right there, all those windows are a bit more reduced in size for practical reasons. And then at this point, again, a similar situation with the garage door. We will try to find a garage door that will work more with the design that we would like to have for that.
Okay. Maybe let's go to the
Yeah.
west elevation, maybe,
Okay?
please? Or whatever the next one is that comes up,
Okay.
it's easiest.
So the east elevation, okay, so that is the existing east, and then if you can see the new proposed, it is, I don't know if we can see them side by side. Okay, so there would be the addition of some small high windows at the top at that bathroom, as you can, run there,
That one.
and one on the other side. And then at the stair, there is a little wall piece that comes up that has sort of an open peekaboo window type of piece right there, and the railings fall into a curb opposed to having an exposed. Well, there was a curb there before, but the railing has been decreased. The railing area has been decreased a little bit. I
Okay,
think
ground floor fenestration has remained the same.
Well, it looks like you removed a window but added a door. Is that right?
Let's see, sorry. That is actually,
Now gone.
there is a, yeah, that goes under the stairs.
Right, but then the.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, there was a window there, so that was removed. Correct. And that's the same, yeah, the garage door is the same. All the rest of the elements are the same. The rear elevation, believe that did not change. Let's see. No. Let's
Well, you
see.
added the fireplace or removed the
No,
fireplace?
there is no, yeah, the exterior fireplace was removed.
Okay,
It is now just a single-sided fireplace element.
okay.
There's still an exterior patio cover, siding, and stucco. And the canopies, awnings are the same. And then on this elevation, I believe,
You spread out the windows
let's see.
on the lower part.
I'm sorry?
You spread out the windows on the lower part, is that
Right.
right? Okay.
To address refinements on the interior elevation.
And then extended it with like a post or something there on the
Correct.
side?
There is,
Okay.
yeah, there is a piece of roof that comes over. There is a door there that goes into the pool bath. And so we did want to have protection for that door, so we extended the roof piece out, and there was a post there.
Is there any changes on the upper floor fenestration?
I don't believe so, sorry, I'm just double checking as well. 4 windows and a casement window off to the bedroom. No, they stayed the same. Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
That is
Any significant changes to the landscaping or?
not significant changes to the landscaping. I think, was, if anything, it was just more refined, that the driveway's been established and paving has been established. But the areas are still, the areas haven't changed. I mean, as far as where the paving is and where the landscape areas are,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, that then completes your presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we'll open this item up again to public comment. Ms. Sefel, please.
Thank you, Chair Kalas. I'll start with in-person public comment. I do have a slip from Sharon McKenzie. So Sharon, if you could come up to the podium, please. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
I have a couple questions and a comment. Sure.
If you could please, for the record, just state your name before you begin, please.
Hi, my name's Sharon McKenzie, and I was wondering how tall is the cement wall going to be on the west side of Lot 6? Do you have that information?
The one on the property line or the one, which?
So we discourage applicants and the public speaking directly to one another. So
Okay.
if you can ask me whatever questions you want asked of them, then I get to play intermediary. I know that's kind of funky, but we do that because sometimes these things get contentious. So if you could tell me how tall that wall is on the west side, that'd be appreciated.
Sure, absolutely. And are you speaking of the wall on the property line versus, or the wall?
I believe we're
stepped
being
in?
asked about the wall on the property line.
Correct.
6 feet.
It's 6 feet in height.
It's 6 feet in height. And we live on the other side of that wall, and I think a couple of years we requested the pool equipment to be on the other side of the property, and so I'm kind of shocked today that it's back on our side. It's like 40 feet from our bedroom, and I don't sleep well, and the noise is, pool equipment can be really loud. So, we're so sad the trees are gone, and the Mountain Dew will be gone, and there'll be this loud pool. I know you can put styrofoam around and stuff, but they are loud. So I was just hoping maybe we could put it back on the other side or partway underground or something to soften some of the noise, because if you have a pool open year-round, it's a lot of noise.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, Ms. Sefel?
Okay. I do not have any further slips. If anyone else wishes to speak, please fill one out and bring it to me. We did not receive any additional written correspondence for this particular project. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Chair Kalas.
Thank you. Okay, so I will open this up to questions from the board.
Okay.
Anybody want to start?
First question, for the elevation of your main entry, it may just be a drafting, but is it intentional that the swing door, pivot door is taller than the windows next to it? No, you're shaking your head.
They
Okay,
should be
so
the same
they'll
height.
align. Okay. Second, I see a note on there that says T. Are those tinted? I didn't see it in the key plan, what it meant.
T is for tempered.
Perfect. Okay. And then I think we just answered that the planter walls are 6 feet along the perimeter. Is that what you were saying?
The perimeter property line walls.
Right,
The
okay.
actual garden walls vary in height.
Okay, so that one on the side by the pool equipment, though, on the property line is 6 feet tall.
The one on the property line is 6 feet tall.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
And then, you're searching for garage doors, but what's the goal garage door? Would it have divisions or it'd be pretty linear as you're showing. You know, and that one, it had the divisions, which I'm partial to and I kind of like.
Right, versus, I think, at
it's
this point,
very- yeah, very
the one
long.
that is showing is more the linear.
Right.
The
And is
linear,
that
it's a
more
little
what
more
you think you'd be able to
contemporary.
find? Okay.
That's what we would be looking for. I think we could be open to putting lights in it if that's a concern, but the
It's more
idea is
just
to have it-
adding some level of detailing, since the other looks very streamlined and simple. And then the only other, I guess it's more of a comment than a question, but I'm assuming the pivot door, that's kind of like the widest it can go. Okay. Because it's less wood now, more glass at that entrance. So just wondering, but
True,
likely
it
that's
is.
probably-
Pivot doors, well, I mean, they can go wider, but they tend to be a little bit
little heavy
unruly
and- okay.
heavy and unruly when they get much wider.
All right. Okay, I think those are my questions.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, do you have any questions?
I do. I'm just trying to get clarity around the conditions, and I think it was a double condition on item 1, so maybe we need to look at the approved minutes again. And I'm not super concerned about them. I mean, I feel like overall, the windows and this kind of level of detail is to the architect. But I also want to understand the intent of the previous board's comments. So if you could help me with that.
I can speak to that. So if we could look at the front elevation, and this was going to be one of my questions or comments, I think there's been a misunderstanding on the applicant's part about the minutes. So if we look at the minutes, it doesn't say that they will be moved to the west elevation. It says, which is impossible, it says to the west.
Okay.
In a westerly direction was the
Got it.
intention.
Got
And
it.
as I recall, if you look at that front elevation, the goal was to create a more balanced condition or symmetrical condition with those 3 windows as it relates to the amount of wall space on either side, to
Got
create
it.
some more breathing room around them.
Got it.
So I think
And we did move it.
hopefully that provides you with some clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But that was the only condition, correct? From the previous approved minutes. Yeah, let's look, because I think it was a double.
It was the stairwell fenestration, that, and the pool equipment.
Okay. Oh, and the pool equipment, too. Pool
Yeah, well, there are
equipment
2
is to be
items.
added. Okay, so you added. So do you have any further comments to help? I know you've considered a lot of locations for the pool equipment and surrounding it in sound walls and, doing what you can. So can you provide further thoughts that you've gone through to address potentially our public comment?
Well, previously, I think there was another location that was, it was still on that side of the property, but further up towards the house. And because that particular, that area, we now have these specimen type trees. And then we also have, that particular part of the wall is actually where it drops, so you can see more of the landscape. That's only a 2-foot, 18-inch, I think, high wall at that point, but then it steps up where the pool is, where the feature is. It just made more sense to put that pool equipment behind that taller feature wall. As far as anywhere else on the opposite side of the property, it's a really long run to the pool from going on the other side, and that's sort of an open play area and things, and there isn't a lot there that would really be able to screen the pool equipment.
Did you happen in your previous set to have site photos of that corner? I was wondering.
I don't
couldn't
know, we'd
recall.
have to look.
Yeah, I think that reference map might be helpful, because that may give us some sense of where where Ms. McKenzie's property is, where
Correct.
her home is relative to the proposed house versus pool.
Yeah, is there anything facing that corner? Okay, well, that is Yeah, I mean, we could.
Can you zoom in on the reference
We can zoom
map?
in on one of them, but. Is that your property? Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to.
I forget his name, Tomasino and Dietz, we had a meeting and they said they would move it over. So I can't remember their names, but it's.
Is the 6-foot property line fence just a standard wood fence? You're not double stacking, insulating? I've gone to.
It's a
noticing.
it's a CMU wall.
Oh, it's a
Yeah.
CMU wall. Okay,
So
so you're
that
gonna
should
get a
help with the-
good, yeah.
that should
I mean,
help
that's
with
a
the sound.
commercial, yeah, it's standard detail. So there's a significant barrier there. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Grafiti or?
What is the, what is that setback for the pool equipment? Have you confirmed that your pool equipment is not in that setback?
Yes.
And that it's screened and you've already checked the DB level?
Correct. Yes, we have checked the DB level.
And can you go back to the trellis details?
Sure.
Trellis and awning details. Just, I don't remember seeing those. That one and the backyard trellis. The details.
You're in the old, oh, there you go.
The back details should be similar to what was on Lot 2. The back awning.
And I was looking for railing details too.
Okay.
So the railing details that we have on our. So here's the guardrail detail.
I think you have a railing that sits on a.
Yeah, we have a railing that sits on a
It sits
curb.
on a
Wall.
on a wall.
Yeah, it should be sitting on the wall.
So you want to see the elevation of that?
There should be a detail.
No, I'm just looking for architectural details.
No, they'll need to be, if it's not there, they'll need to be added. Or issued as.
Okay.
Yeah, we
So
don't-
what,
we don't.
let's skip
Yeah,
over those.
we don't
It sounds
have
like we
that.
don't have those.
Yeah, I don't see
Um,
them on here. So the, yeah, I mean, I can describe what they are, but if,
Yeah, they should be
have-
in the set, so. Do you have any other questions, Ms. Sherry? Okay, Ms. Graffitti, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just quickly, so I know one of the conditions was reducing the height of the stairwell window. Can you just confirm how much that was reduced?
We'd have to do a dimension.
Or roughly?
Yeah, it was narrowed and lowered a little bit, but it's not, it still has a long vertical appearance. Can we do it? I don't know if we can take a dimension on this.
Maybe you could just show us the old front elevation again, and an effort to, maybe we can,
Yeah, kind of eyeball.
yeah, kind of get a sense of relationships. So the head height was lower than the one at the bedroom, it still
Correct.
is. It still has the operable section at the bottom.
Correct.
It looks pretty close to what was there before, I think.
Yeah, it's slightly lower, if you can see it in relationship to the eave.
Okay, and
Yeah.
you said narrower as well, slightly? Or,
Yeah, it's slightly, it's very slight, though. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not much.
and then, can you just go over really quickly, what hedging is along the property line? Is it a podocarpus? We couldn't see when you were scrolling through.
Oh, on the landscape plan?
Mm-hmm.
We can go to that.
Along the wall where the pool equipment is.
So that's L2 point.
I think it was
There we
like
go.
PG, but you didn't
Yeah.
scroll down.
Okay, so if we look. So if we look over to this, yeah, let's look at the legend.
Scroll down. Okay, it is podocarpus. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. Oh, was the sill height then, or I think you mentioned the sill might have been raised above the primary bathroom. Can you confirm the height of the windows if there was any change?
I don't know that it was raised above where it was previously. I was just saying basically that it's, the window itself does not like drop down below the tub. It actually is set up higher, so there's some level of privacy there, and you're still looking out at the picture window.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a couple questions. Can we look at the front elevation, please? Okay, so in the previous iteration, from what I'm seeing in the rendering, the wall where the tall window was previously stucco or plaster,
Correct.
and it appears to be wood siding now.
Yes, that is correct.
So that has changed. And can we go back to the old iteration again? In this rendering, the horizontal siding is relatively wide planked. And what we're seeing now is sort of a typical hardy board shiplap kind of siding.
It's not. It should be. It's a 10-inch siding with the nickel gap reveal in it.
Okay, and is there somewhere where that is specifically called out on the current set of plans so that we can ensure that's what we're getting?
The Hardy Artisan, if you look that up, I think the smallest is 8 inches.
Well, it is.
I'm not familiar with
The
that
nickel
product.
gap
Does
one
anybody on the board?
is the 10-inch. So it should be, is it on the materials?
your materials? No, we call it a Hardy Artisan lap siding.
It's a lapped siding.
But it will,
We have different sizes.
no, but it's not a lap side. I mean, if you're saying it's a lap siding, I mean, if that art, I mean, it is, it's
The Artisan.
the artisan one where it's the nickel gap, so it,
So it's got like a rabbited condition.
correct. Yes.
That but it has a flush. It doesn't have a beveled.
It does not have a,
Chamfer
yeah, it does not have a
condition to it.
projection. Yes, you can see it.
Which option?
It's, sorry. It is square channel, no, it's not that one. It's just, they call it. I can't see.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
hearing you. I'm basically there.
Because the
Okay.
artisan lap is what's called out, but it looks different than the picture. The picture one you're showing looks either like the V groove or the ship lap, but they do also have a square channel version.
Right, it is, it's not the big square channel, it's the small nickel gap.
Okay.
The V groove. Okay.
Got a couple other questions. If we can go back to the front elevation. I think it was the front elevation. No, actually, I'm sorry. It's the easterly elevation. So there were windows added to the second story here. And those were not on the set that received PDA, correct?
On the original one, there were not windows. There's an additional window added, it has a high sill in the primary bath.
Okay.
And then the other is in the stairwell. So it's up high. You would have to see it from the second floor when you get to the landing at the top of the second floor. But again, it's also a high sill.
Okay. And just for the benefit of the public speaker, can you please explain why you did not move the pool equipment per the direction of the board? We asked you to move it as far away as possible from the west property line. My recollection is that we wanted to see it basically moved to the east property line. That is not what has happened. I understand there's a CMU wall there, but that's not the direction that was given. So I'm trying to understand why that was not acted upon.
I think in that particular case, we do have a landscape designer on this. As far as location-wise, as I said before, in the particular layout of the rear yard, there is a large open area that is an open play area. There is also, as I said, I would have to ask our landscape designer why it was not moved to the other side, but obviously it would be exposed. If it were on the far end, it would be wide open and exposed. We'd have to add. And I think the owner wanted to be able to retain as much open yard space for their children to play and such. And if the pool equipment goes over there, then
Okay.
it would,
Okay,
it would encroach.
I'm just gonna kind of jump over comments, and I'm just gonna say that I don't think this is ready for final. I don't think it's ready for final because we're missing details of some guardrails. I personally cannot find this in substantial conformance with the old drawings and with the direction that was given by the board in order to give it final. Now, there might be other people on the board that want to make a motion to that effect, but I don't know that we're in a position to give a final approval to this regardless because we're lacking details. And I will just say, I'm taking my moment at Mike for comments here. In terms of the front elevation, if we go back to the old iteration for a minute, the board, the applicants, we got a lot of public comments on this. We worked really hard. I know you guys have worked really hard to get this to where it's at as on screen right now in this iteration. And what I'm feeling is like there are these incremental changes that are being made that are attempting to take us backwards and move us back towards a more modern look that is not and was not the intent of that whole painful process we went through to get to this point. So I personally can't make a motion to approve this for final because it's not completed, but also I can't find that it's in conformance with the previous plans, with the intention that the board had, and the direction that was given in multiple iterations prior to the last one. I'd like to know how the other board members feel about the matter before us in terms of whether these drawings are complete enough to give it final. So maybe we could start with a straw vote in terms of that issue first. Ms. Lewis, do you think this can be given final?
I'm still deciding.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
I have to, I mean, it's hard to get the intent out of the videos watched.
I'm just asking about whether you think we have a complete set of plans that we can make a motion for final or not, whether we have an acceptable set of plans in front of us.
Yes, with conditions.
Okay, Ms. Graffitti?
I know you're asking it independently of if we feel that it's in substantial conformance. I think, though, for me, just a combination of both. There were so many changes and windows added and the front door and just the glazing in general, plus the fact that details are missing. I think if it was one or the either, I may be able to come up with a conditional final approval. But I think I'm going to struggle being able to say yes to final approval today.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, I'm going to circle back to you.
Dawn doesn't get a say.
She's unable to comment because she did not review everything.
I thought that was for the other one.
Yeah, she can ask questions, but she can't comment or vote.
Yeah, the thing I'm struggling with is that the two comments that were made at the last board in order to give it this PDA were not met. And I would be in support of delaying PDA for the additional details and for a study and look at, for final, thank you. And to clean up some of these drafting concerns.
Could we do the 2 weeks and just to clarify the pool equipment? I mean, I'm more of a functionalist, and so to understand the intent of the board as a directive, you have to move it to the east side. Were there parameters around that, and why? Do I not need to?
This was a highly controversial subdivision and project. There was significant weigh-in from the neighborhood, upwards of, I would say, 30 people. And so some of these decisions and directions that were given by our board were in an effort to negotiate and mediate issues with the public and the applicant.
And that was one of them.
That was one of them.
Okay, all right. Then we should.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that this item be continued back to the full board. Would you like a 2-week continuance or indefinite?
No, definitely 2-week, or is it possible? I mean, could we can't put conditions on it if we add the details, or could we come back at consent? If
We don't have any mechanism then by which we can review the details if we give you final.
Okay, could we come back at a consent then versus full board? If we do all those things that are being addressed?
I'd like this back at full board. I think it's a project that merits that.
I do have space on the full board agenda for 12/18, just to keep in mind.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can do it as quickly as possible, that'd be appreciated.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that this project be continued back to the full board in 2 weeks with the following comments: that the applicant again review the direction that was given previously and respond accordingly. I think there's been further clarity provided today in terms of what those intentions were. That's specifically in regards to the comments about the bathroom windows and the pool equipment. I'm going to make a comment, and if you guys want to amend this, this is fine. We would like to see a project that continues to be in better conformance with the previously, with the PDA-approved set of drawings in terms of fenestration, finishes, and associated detailing. That would be in terms of the windows on the second floor of the north elevation, the front entry door, the garage door, and the location where plaster siding is versus wood siding. We need specific information on the proposed siding to ensure that it is in conformance with the previous set of plans, which appeared to be a horizontal wide plank material. We need awning details, and we need details for all guardrails that appear to be currently lacking in the drawings. That is my motion. That is not my motion. I would also encourage you to look at the, I think it's the west elevation. No, it's the rear elevation, I'm sorry. The head heights do not appear to be, those windows do not appear to be consistent with the previous set of drawings. The head heights do not appear to be consistent across the first floor elevation. So please review that as well. That's my motion.
Just a question for you. Do you want, I know there were a lot of changes to windows and heights and placements and things. It sounds like your motion, you're conveying to go back to the previous design. Are there any specific ones you would want to call out that you feel comfortable with leaving in the new design? Or I just don't want to cause confusion in what we're keeping and what we're advising to return to the previous plan that received PDA.
I am looking for a project that substantially conforms with the last set of drawings. I would anticipate very few changes and more development.
Okay, regarding the head heights on the rear elevation, I just want to be clear, and are you talking about at the southern elevation, or are you talking about, which elevation are you talking about?
Yes, it's the southern elevation.
Okay, so as far as, I mean, some of this is in response to as
So,
things.
you know what, we have a
Okay.
motion on the table.
Okay.
I'm happy to provide you with that direction
Sure.
informally after we
Okay,
move on our
thank you.
motion. Okay? Does anybody want to second, amend, not second the motion that's on the table?
I'll second the motion.
Are there any amendments?
No.
Okay, if we could please take a vote.
Chair Kalas,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffitti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Okay, so quickly, and for the applicant's edification, if we could look at the old south elevation. Okay, so it may be that I misread this because of the shadow lines. It appeared to me that in this iteration, that all head heights were the same. They're not. So as long as you're consistent with the south elevation, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Pardon me? Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, please. We will be back at 4:50. going to reconvene the Single Family Design Review Board for December 4th, 2023. Next up on deck is item 425, Allen Road. It is here today for concept review. This is a proposal to construct a detached 1,000 square foot, two-story accessory dwelling unit with a 57 square foot covered entry, a 215 square foot covered porch, and a 184 square foot uncovered balcony. It's in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. It has one uncovered parking space that is proposed to serve the ADU. The Planning Commission review and approval of a coastal development permit and condition amendment will be required for this project. The existing single-unit residence and attached garage will remain on site. The proposed total of 3,500 square feet of total development, I'm assuming, on a 14,601 square foot lot is 81% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Neighbor preservation findings in Hillside Design District and sloped lot findings will be required when reviewed for project design approval. This project was last reviewed, it says, on November 6, 2023, which is not accurate. Was it?
We were here last month.
Okay, so this has been continued since November 6th. Okay. Was this the one that you thought had the wrong date?
Yeah, sorry, I texted you.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's not the original.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry, a little bit confusion. I've seen this project once before. Okay, anyhow, we would ask that you please introduce yourselves and your project to us, and we will listen intently.
And apologies,
Ms. Plummer.
thank you, Chair Class. Just a reminder, since we didn't have the full single-family design board at the last meeting, if you did not review the minutes, if you did not review the tape, if you're not familiar with the project, you're limited to questions only, not comments on this item. Thank you.
Okay, so can I ask a point of clarification then? Because I have seen a project for this address previously on the board, but I did not review the last minutes.
Okay, so Chair Kalas, if you're referring to the one-time pre-application consultation, that was a non-binding hearing.
Okay.
So yes, it would
That
have to be
answers
the
my
formal
question.
concept
Okay.
hearing.
So I'll
Thank
be
you.
abstaining then. Okay, please.
Kate Svensson, designer for the project.
Trish Allen with SEPS. I was just going to say all those things to explain that we were here a year ago with the pre-application. The project's been revised since then. So yes, we were here last month. And I just have a couple introductory comments before we get into the slides. Following the hearing last month, not based on the motion that was made, but really the dialogue that we had with the board, the question comments, the clarifications that we provided. Once we left, we felt that we could have been much more effective in our presentation with explaining the site, the topography, and the context. And so we have addressed several of the comments that the board made last time, and Kate will be walking you through those. But that we wanted to come back to you with additional contextual detail. So there's been some changes, not all the things that we were asked to study. They've been studied, but not necessarily implemented. And for these reasons, that's why we asked staff to reach out to you to request a site visit, driving by to really observe the neighborhood, understand the proximity of neighbors, the different massing happening around this property. So we really appreciate that hopefully we're able to get out there and took that time. So thank you for going out and observing the site. I think that will really give you a better understanding of the project context. During this last time, very quickly, we did re-engage the surveyor to come out to the site and put up some story poles. And what that did is allowed us to more accurately depict the building siding and the massing. I'm not saying they weren't accurate, but we're really on solid ground with that, and we want to show you some of those visuals. this afternoon. So we think with these additional resources, the board will have a greater understanding of the site topography, the constraints, in order to better evaluate neighborhood compatibility, size, bulk, and scale. So with that, I'll turn it to Kate. Thank you.
Can I just interject for a second? When would it be appropriate to read the minutes from the last meeting? Because I, for one, would like to do that.
I think that would be, asked of the applicant at the outset of their presentation. If you could bring them up on the,
Usually what we do is we kind of go over them and then you respond, but it sounds
yeah,
like you.
they should be right there.
We should go over them.
They're right there.
Can we stop the presentation clock, though? Because I think usually the board would read.
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
That's
refresh
fine.
everybody's memory.
Yeah, just stop that clock.
Thank you, appreciate that. I'm sorry, I just jumped right in. Did you want me to read them? or-
Yeah, you can go ahead and read them and just, yeah.
I really like how you announced our project description. It was,
Okay,
Thrilling and
I'm happy to
exciting.
play orator, that's fine. Here we go. The motion was made, I was not present, to continue the project indefinitely back to our full board with the following comments. In general, the board is in support of the architectural language matching the main house and the general square footage. However, the board is concerned about the overall size of the uncovered balcony on the second floor, encroaching in the recommended 15-foot setback from the property line. It would be good to know whether that's our rear or side yard property line. The general scale of the balcony and proximity to the neighbor is of privacy concern. The board recommends studying the square footage on the second story versus first story and recommends reducing the size of the second story to reduce the overall size, bulk, and scale and adding that area to the first floor. The board recommends studying the rear elevation, adding architectural elements, and highly recommends adding some glazing. The board recommends trying to reduce the overall height of the ADU and to consider lowering the finished floor elevation to look at the top height of the roof level of the ADU over the first story. The board sees easy reduction in the first floor plate height, The board can be in support of a second story if the overall appearance of the ADU is reduced in size. If needed, the board is in support of reducing the open yard requirement to reduce the size, bulk, and scale of the ADU by extending the first floor into the required open yard. Motion was made by Ms. Lewis, seconded by Graffiti. It prevailed 3-0 with both myself and Ms. Anderson abstaining.
Okay.
We can restart the
I didn't
clock
mean to
and
give
go.
the impression we haven't addressed all these comments. Ms.
And
Sherry.
apologies, before we restart the clock, did Board Member Anderson, did you review the tape and minutes and all of that? So you
Yes.
can comment fully on this item?
Yes,
Thank you.
and I saw the original.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start with the story poles, and the story poles represent the current design that you're going to see in front of you today. So this is the view from across the street on Ellen Road. You can see the main residence that's 425 right in front of you. And you can, if I'll zoom in a little more, these two pink items represent the top of the ridge of the proposed ADU. So for your reference point, the neighborhood context is, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that, is basically this. This is how much you will be able to see it from the street. And this photo shows you the view right at the master, actually, I don't know if it was kitchen and master bedroom of the, living room, master bedroom of the 425 Allen Road of the client's residence. And you can see the view of the development across the property line from him. And the story poles will show you how this is able to obstruct that view and provide him with some privacy. Again, this is taken at the corner of the rear of the property, up against 23 Wade Court, looking down to our client's home.
So in that, go back
Sorry.
one, Kate.
Yeah.
In that view, we're just, standing at that shared property boundary with 23 Wade on the other side of
I
the
can
fence, and just want to point
Maybe I
out.
can switch to the plans to show.
Just stay there for a second. I just wanted to point out the framed views on either side of the ADU and, the ridge of, that's Elings Park in the background, and the sky, that you can see the sky beyond.
I hate to interrupt you, but can you show it in the site plan?
Yeah. So it is standing, can you see this? Yeah, it's standing like right here, looking down this way on the ADU.
Okay.
Right up against the fence line.
Thanks, Kate.
Yep, and then on this scenario, it is standing, let me see, story poles, right in front of the building, okay. So it's standing somewhere right here. And we have, for those who have been on the site, I think you still saw the corners of the building still marked with pipes, so you kind of had an idea of the footprint of where this is located. And this is inside of or our client's house, so taken from the inside of his bedroom. You can see the story poles, and you can see that some of them are still below the 23-weight court structure, but this gives you an idea of the amount of privacy that he can regain by putting that structure there. So since the last hearing, we were very, we carefully reviewed the comments in the directive of the board and the proposed changes in studies that you asked us to do. And we kind of went back to the, drawing board to see if what we're proposing to you is actually compatible with the neighborhood preservation guidelines and with the Hillside District development guidelines, and studied the relocation of the second floor to or portion of the second floor to the lower level, and found that it's actually due to multiple reasons, one of them being a very expensive soil that requires over-excavation and recompaction, but also that, amount of grading and retaining walls that this would create is really going against the guidelines. Additionally to that, pushing that second story in the lower level really created such a proximity to the main residence that was becoming pretty uncomfortable. Right now we have 21-foot, I don't know if you can see this, 21-foot separation. And it's actually the shortest distance to the structures around all the three neighborhoods, all the three properties surrounding this property. You have more separation from 23 Court. You have over 60 feet to the property line to the neighbor on the north, and you have tremendous amount of land on the neighbor to the neighbor of the south. So this is slowly and slowly encroaching closer and closer to the main residence of 425 Allen Road. So for us to be sensitive and sensible to the site and grading restrictions, having the smallest footprint and the least amount of retaining and excavation and recompaction is really following the guidelines that the city proposed. But we were very sensitive to a comment from one of the board members about potentially reducing the finished floor elevation to reduce the overall height and mass of the ADU, and we did that. We went ahead and lowered the elevation of the residence and lowered the overall height of the building. Obviously, that created higher retaining walls on the rear of the structure, but that's the only way we could achieve that. And in fact, it's now lowered so much that technically, by the city definition, the lower level is a basement, because more than 50% of it is that far below the ground. We're not using it to our advantage in terms of calculations, but it is actually compliant with that at this point. The other big comment from the minutes was about the proximity of the balcony and the size of the balcony on the second floor. Just go to the site plan and zoom in here. So we studied the proximity and the location of the balcony, and the entire structure, obviously including the balcony, has been moved away from the southern property line an additional 3 feet. So we shifted the whole development back 3 additional feet. And we cropped about 30% of the balcony. It used to, if you remember, turn around and wrap around the building. We deleted that portion of the balcony. I'll show it to you closer on the floor plans. So overall, we did both. We reduced the size and the location of the balcony. But in terms of answering the comment about the privacy to the neighbor on the south, I think in the public comment, the privacy concern was about the ADU being able to look into the bedroom windows. Here, if you look at this area, this is where the bedroom windows are. It is 151 feet away from the balcony. So it is tremendous separation between this proposed development and what the privacy concerns area is. This property also has an existing driveway that's providing additional buffer between the two properties. So we put some dimensions here to give you a reference point of how far this really is from the neighboring property. So, and I'm going to go to the floor plans. Well, actually, I'm going to stay at this section for a while. So this, you won't be noticing it, but this shows this structure being sunken into the ground more. You can see that our ridge of the ADU is more than 2 feet below the second floor, finished floor of the closest residence to this development. And if you look at this section and how the massing is stepping, this is basically identical to the, well, actually I have it here, to the exhibit of Hillside Ridgeline development. This is exactly the kind of guidelines we followed when we tried to build this structure into the slope and kind of hide the bottom level, basically create a basement out of it. So let me zoom in here. So we have not made any changes to the lower level, except a slight relocation of the staircase that was to address one of the comments from the previous hearing. The second floor, you will see this is the portion of the balcony we removed and replaced it with roof and a little pony wall. This red line represents the 15-foot line from the property line. We have only 15%, the sliver of the balcony that is within that 50-foot separation from the property line. The rest of the balcony is outside of it. And this removed about 27% of the balcony itself. And no other major changes have been made to the floor plans or roof plans. Obviously, the whole structure moved back, and we addressed and adjusted the landscape plan to reflect the location of trees and vegetation. But overall, I think the board was in support of the landscape before, so we just adjusted it to kind of move with the whole development. So in our, reevaluation after the last hearing, I think we kind of very thoroughly went through all the guidelines for neighborhood compatibility in terms of visibility from the streets and across the street and neighboring properties in terms of, hillside ridgeline development standards and stepping into the slope and burying the lower levels, as much as possible underground. So we kind of went through like a checklist to make sure that we comply and hit every note. In addition to that, I think because of us having this little exhibit brought to the last hearing where one of the neighbors wasn't sure how much the roof would impact their views of the sky, and I think at that point we weren't. Can you just help me?
I just want to let you know you have about 2.5 minutes
I'm
left.
done.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, you made the west elevation changes on the.
Oh, yes, sorry, glazing. Yes, my bad. We did the glazing on the west elevation. Sorry, you saw it there. But yes, I'm gonna quickly zoom in there. Yes, that was actually the best suggestion. I'm so glad you did that because I hated that elevation myself. So yes, we added the glazing per your comment. And this few quick renderings for you to kind of consider what more. I have more. To see what this is actually looking like. And we based this on the story poles, so we have an accurate kind of representation of how much of the Ealing's Park this roof line would cover. And I'm standing obviously below the finished floor of the adjacent residence, but this gives you a good representation of how this house is sitting in the slope. I apologize.
City TV, could you please zoom in? Thank you.
There we go.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted to add? You do have a couple minutes left
Wanna
here,
wrap
minute
up?
and a half or so.
Well, I think, just really quickly, thank you, Chair Kalas. Just a little bit of a wrap-up. Thank you again for going by and listening to all the thought process, the design process that went in to this proposed ADU. We're feeling really good about it. We are here, we do have to move on to the Planning Commission for the coastal development permit and for alteration of one of the project conditions when this property was subdivided. And we're here to, we want to gain your supportive comments regarding the mass bulk scale, size, and, well, we did reduce the size and compatibility. So just a reminder that we have a little ways to go, and we really want to move forward with some positive comments from this board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, we'll close the applicant's presentation period, and we will open this project up for public comment. Ms. Safel, if you would please manage that process.
Thank you, Chair Kalas. I will start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do have a slip from Carol Shaw. Carol, if you could please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you very much. Am I on? Okay, I'm Carol Shaw. I live at 23 Wade Court. For starters, could you put up the drawings? I did send a note about the shadow that's cast on our house, which is quite significant. And has everybody seen that? Okay.
City TV, please zoom in.
So thank you for reducing the height of the structure. At the same time, the ADU still casts a significant shadow on our house. In winter, our house is designed to take advantage of passive solar access. And we hope that the changes that could be made to reduce the shadow and work with that there are changes that could work with the topography of the lot. For instance, the height could be lessened by bringing it still closer to grade. So instead of climbing a series of steps to get to the ADU front door, the building could be brought down 2 to 3 feet below the existing retaining wall, which is a planter now, I guess, in the drawing, behind the main residence. That way, the existing retaining wall could function as a safety barrier for the public so it doesn't fall and into the back patio of the residence, and no windows of the main house in the front of the back of the ADU would be obstructed. That way, the ADU would no longer loom as tall. The slopes surrounding the ADU could be addressed by a series of landscaping terraces rather than a massive retaining wall, because we talk about grading and siding, but I think that there are alternative ways to address topography rather than just say, okay, now we'll dig this down into a basement. Also, by moving it further back closer to our house in the new plans, as opposed to describing it as an encroachment on the main residence, I think there's room to move it back forward and still have, be within the rules of the city. All of that, if you build it closer to the main residence, would come a long way to reducing the ADU's impact on our house, because it's primarily us. I want to thank you for your time, and I hope that this was helpful.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming out and speaking.
If there's anyone else who wishes to speak, please fill out a speaker slip and bring it to me at this time. I see no one moving in the audience. We did receive correspondence on this particular item from Carol and Cameron Shaw. And at that, I will turn this back over to you, Chair Kalas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Fell. Okay, so at this time, I will open this item to questions from the board. My understanding is that anybody can ask questions. I will be refraining from comments or making motions or voting on the item, but I believe everybody else can do so. Does anybody have questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Sherry, I don't think your mic is on.
It's not. So the story poles, that's great. Did anybody get photos from the neighbor that's talking about how their view's being impinged upon, get photos? Or were you asked to come up and see or be able to take photos from their property so you could see how their view is impacted?
No, we did not have access to any of the properties, and that's why it's then basically at the fence line, as close as I can be to their properties when I'm taking.
So did you get a photo from their fence line in front of their house instead of off to the side? Because you showed us a photo.
In front of this house?
Yeah, you
If
showed
we're
us a
open to it,
photo.
There's a member in the audience who took a photo from their property.
Okay.
It's on his phone.
Yeah, that would be great if we could see that. And also, my other question is, we saw the photo off to the side, kind of looking down, but we didn't see one directly,
Right.
you know, that cross-section that you took, that you show in the drawing, like one from that particular area on your side of the fence looking straight at the ADU. Like,
That's, I mean, I'm sure I have a little bit closer, but that's pretty close to the section.
not that one, the one taken from,
That,
Okay, so we have some photos. I'm going to put them here. They're going to be small, so if City TV could please zoom in very closely, and then I'll scroll through these for the record. These were, for the record, these were taken by Cameron Shaw, who is at 23 Wade Court.
And where is
the microphone's in the way there. Yeah, so my question is, this is kind of like against protocol, but I'm asking where that shot was taken from. Was it taken from the lower level, from the upper level? If you could come to the mic here and explain it, I think it would really help me. You're going to have to come to the mic and turn it on. That one's okay. Yeah.
The first couple were taken from the upstairs.
Just say that
Patio.
photo is taken from,
Well, I'd have to see them.
I know, I'm trying, okay,
there we go.
Okay, let me,
There you go.
trying to facilitate to the greatest degree possible here. Okay, so we're just going to ask you for a quick description of this.
Very
because
quick.
Really, it's
That's-
the
yeah.
board's time
that's
to
take-
ask questions here.
That's
but-
taken from the kitchen,
Which is where? I don't know your
Second
house.
floor,
First
first
floor.
floor, first floor, kitchen.
first floor.
First floor kitchen.
Okay,
Yeah.
looking downhill,
Yep.
next,
Also,
okay,
further to the right in the kitchen.
okay.
That's great. I think that answers my question.
And then that is
Yeah.
right out of the kitchen also. You know what? I'm sorry.
It doesn't.
I was
the other
wrong.
ones the
Those
second floor?
first couple of photos were taken from the second floor.
Okay,
And then,
Sorry
and
about
then the other one,
Then the other ones were taken from the kitchen area. If you keep scrolling, please.
okay, so I'm just going to repeat this for the
Yeah,
record.
upstairs.
This was taken from the second floor level?
Yes,
This was taken from the second floor level?
absolutely.
This was also taken from the second floor
Yes.
level? And this was taken from,
The first floor level kitchen.
okay?
First floor level kitchen, and then that I got up to the fence.
okay. Thank you. That answers that question.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for.
And then, do you have a site, you didn't happen to do a site section comparison of the reduction that you made of the plate height and the lowering into the hill? Like the first submittal versus the second submittal?
it's identical, just 1 foot down. But
Oh,
yes,
just 1 foot down?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you made it, because you said it was now a basement. It was like so low that it would be
Correct.
considered a basement.
Correct, because the basement is considered, what is it, 4 foot to top of the plate? I
And you
think.
already had a retaining wall on the lower level?
We did.
So, okay.
But it now became taller, yeah.
And then the lower level plate is 9.6? It was kind of small, and the upper level is 8?
8.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else with other questions from the board?
Yes, because I'm a little bit, behind the 8 ball here, but general square footage, did you reduce any square footage?
Yeah, we presented that at the last hearing. That was pretty significant, that we're
Can you-
1,000 square foot reduced from 1,200, so we don't need
Okay.
the floor area mod.
Okay, right. Thank you for reminding me. And then you just went over really fast, the finished floor. You just dropped it by a foot.
Since the last hearing, yes. By additional foot, yeah.
Okay. And then the plate heights, first floor is X and the second floor is Y?
9, 6, and 8.
9, 6, and 8. Okay. All right. And the story poles are to the ridge and at the corners. I mean, that was super helpful. I mean, honestly, just makes all the difference. So thank you for doing that. Yeah, because, you know, I drove the site and I'm looking like I didn't even see buildable area back there. And then it is a concern from the street what we're seeing. So it's super valuable to see that. So, yeah, do you know the height of those? I mean, they're all set to the height of the
I
roof.
don't have a story pole plan in the binder that was submitted to you, but I have one available. Obviously, the surveyor used it for installing the story poles, but they
Okay.
range, well, I mean, I can calculate by looking at the floor plans, really. So the top of ridge from they're about 18 feet, I think, on average, depending what point at the ridge there is, but I can definitely provide that information.
Okay.
Ms. Graffiti, do you have any questions? No. Okay, I do have one question. Since I can ask questions, I'll ask it. And I may be one step behind just because of not having reviewed everything, so bear with me if I am. The drawings that I looked at that were a previous iteration to this, or maybe two previous iterations, had the finished floor height set at 40 feet.
41, I think, yeah.
Okay, and it's currently set at 39, is that correct?
39, yes, I think it's, thank you, hold on, sorry, plans, I think it's 39. 39,
Okay, so it's dropped a foot or two from
yeah.
last time,
Correct.
original, whatever, but it's been dropped in terms of where you've set the finished floor height. And I think in this drawing, when I saw this, I was a little bit confused about dimensioning versus floor heights as noted on the right. So you're saying that the plate height is 9'6" for the first floor?
Right. And 8 for the second.
Okay. Okay, those were my only questions.
All right,
Thank you.
I'm happy to start our commenting.
Please do.
Okay, first of all, thank you. I think you did a very good job trying to address our comments on a very tricky site. I think the story polls were very helpful. Going to the site was very helpful, and taking a look in the backyard and the site limitations, and also to visually see the distance with the neighbors. And I think what's articulated in the site section, and then even standing there in the backyard of the site, is how tall the neighbor is in the back property. And I think, you know, looking at these site sections and from the photographs, the fence right now blocks the majority of this from the first floor of the adjacent neighbor. And even for shadows, the fence would be casting its own shadows, more so than the ridge of this, looking at the site section. I think the glazing and detailing on the back elevation is well done, thank you. And I also think that reducing the size of the balcony, it helps not only give the appearance that it's smaller, but it's now for, you know, one or two people having their morning cup of coffee instead of the appearance that you're going to host a party out there overlooking your neighbors. And I think that was the concern brought up previously. I'm in support of it encroaching just a little bit on the corner in that 15 foot, since the majority of it does not, and you really can only fit one or two people. I think adjusting the stairs a little bit in the back also helps so that you land a little bit closer to where the landing is. And thank you for reducing the overall height. I think any little bit helps. And let's see, my kind of only other kind of detailing suggestions as you get into that would be considering a sort of differentiation between the basement level and the top level in the base and the rear elevation, but again, that's not visible from the public and just more of a detailing thing. You can't see it from the street, and looking around from the back, I even looked up from the neighbors up on the side as well. And given where this falls, it's not going to block any views. And if anything, provides more privacy because it's not as apparent in the public spaces looking over any other properties. I think those are my main comments.
Okay, great. I agree with Board Member Lewis, and I also appreciate you allowing us to visit the site. I think it really helped me. I know initially in the last meeting, I was really pushing, considering moving more of the massing to the first floor, but after visiting the site, it was really clear just the way the slope changes and the actual area you have, it didn't seem like that was a super viable option. Also visiting the site again and just driving through the street, I don't have any concerns of bulk from the street, and especially even neighborhood context. If you actually look across the street and some of the closest homes, there are these huge like massing two-story homes. So this isn't going to be anything like this again. I don't think you're even really going to be able to see it from the street. And I appreciate all the changes made. I do think this helps it become more of a, an acceptable project, and I would be able to provide supportive comments today for you to go to Planning Commission.
Can I add one additional comment? Is I'd like to see the detail of a chimney cap when you come back.
The exhibits and the story polls, because it helps a lot, and I had concerns as well, but I can see now that I'm completely comfortable with the mass, bulk, and scale and siting of this project.
Yeah, I don't typically, after we pre-review before we come in, we do our neighborhood, evaluation, and then we come in, and I don't typically flip-flop my opinion. And generally came in, struggling with this is too large for this lot, looking at that topography. But the story polls are really kind of changing my mind here. And you guys have definitely worked with the board to make the reductions, work with the neighbors. And so I'm generally moving into a comfort level of being in support of the project. I had another question on the existing plate out of the residence. Is it 9.6 as well, or
It appears from the section that it's 10.6.
And you probably need the 9.6 because you're dropping the finished floor so low.
It's 10.6, correct?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, well, I'll make a motion then.
Yes, please do.
I move to continue the project indefinitely to the Planning Commission with the following comments. The board is generally in support of the mass, bulk, and scale, given the site topography and the story polls and renderings showing that the ADU sits as low into the hillside as possible, and they reduced the overall plate heights. The board is in support of the general design aesthetic and matching the main house. Quick question, do we have to make an additional comment about the open yard that we're still in support, or that's fine because we already did? Okay. I don't think that the board had any other comments of things that they needed to see changes to. Is that right? That's true, yes. The board recommends studying the design of the chimney cap and the differentiation between the foundation level and stories above. I'm deciding if there's anything else.
Through the
one more. The board is in support of the balconies and their reduced size, and can support the closeness to the property line, given the size of the balcony and how far it is from the neighboring house. What were you gonna say?
Through the chair, board member, if you want to provide any general comment about neighborhood compatibility as it relates to your findings, even though you're not making them today, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
The ADU style and scale is in conformance with the existing main house and thus the neighborhood. Through looking at the story poles, it's not going to add any size, bulk, and scale to the street elevation, and it will not impede any public views. The end.
So what I'm hearing is we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second, please?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and if we could please take a roll call, Ms. Fell?
Yes. Chair Claus,
I abstain.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffitti,
Yes.
Board Member Lewis.
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much, and good luck with your next step. Okay. The next item is item 4, 2906 Calle Noguera. This is a proposal that is before us for concept review. This is a proposal to construct additions to the existing So item 4, 2906 Calle Noguera, this is a proposal to construct additions to the existing 1,295 square foot, one-story, single-unit residence consisting of I believe this means the addition is consisting of a 271 square foot first floor, addition, and an 837 square foot second story addition. The project also includes a 447 square foot attached accessory dwelling unit, new landscape and site improvements. The proposed total of 2,850 square feet of development on a 6,800 square foot lot is 90. Does staff have anything to share with us about this project before we start?
Thank you, Chair Colossus and board members. So this project is here for a concept review, but it has gone through, I think we're on our second or third 30-day review. So they've really put in some work thus far. And I just want to clarify about the ADU component. So the ADU is being made up of existing garage square footage, existing residence square footage. So that's just a point of clarification. And then as you've pointed out, it's 99% of the required maximum floor to lot area ratio. So it would be helpful if the board needed those FAR supplementals. Please let us know at today's hearing. Thank you.
Okay, point of clarification is and I haven't looked closely at the drawings, is the ADU only held within the first floor level?
Yes, it has a loft component, but the applicant could further clarify.
Okay, maybe you can clarify that in your presentation.
Can I just ask a question?
Any other questions for
So
staff?
you were mentioning this project being reviewed, but this is the first time it's being reviewed by our board, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
And there was one other thing I think that to mention is there's a front wall that we would like to have at 6 feet, 10 feet back from the front property line. And the reason is, if you look here on this page, you see Alamar and Kelly Noguera, and you see
I'm going to go ahead and let you, that can be part of your presentation. So, so at this time, I'll just go ahead and ask you to introduce yourselves, please, and your project to us. You aren't. It's really bright when it's lit. It's
Thank you.
super bright. It
Hi.
kind of looks lit
So
sometimes.
I'm Erica Bertelli for Buildston Architecture and Planning.
Hi, and Ellen Bilston.
Okay, thank you, guys. So the one other thing I was just mentioning, I think I'll just say it now so we address it, is we're asking for an allowance to have a 6-foot wall in the front yard, 10 feet back from the property line. And the reason is we're very close to both Alamar and Cali Noguera. And so there's a lot of noise that comes across. And so it wouldn't be right on the sidewalk. There would be plantings between the sidewalk and the wall. But in terms of a noise barrier, we feel this would be a reasonable request. And when you look around this corner of the property, there are very tall hedges and fences that are in that neighborhood. So, okay, so that was just, I wanted to mention that piece. So here's the neighborhood. You can see those taller hedges here of the neighbor on the corner of Alamar. That would be their side yard. There are very tall trees in this neighborhood. This is across the street. And then here is the residence right here. These are some views of the existing residence showing you the back of the house, the front of the house, and then down the two sides. The survey shows that this is the lot right here on the corner of Cali Noguera and Alamar. We've worked with our civil engineer to make sure that we're in Tier 2 so that there's no stormwater mitigation at Tier 3 for this project. And landscape has generally been designed to fit in with the neighborhood with the trees, to provide shade where it's needed, and to provide some attractive color, both along the sidewalk as well as on site. And there's a front area that the homeowners like to have as like an entry terrace on the way into the house, since there is quite a bit of topography here. And so this shows how that entry terrace would fit with that front porch. There are a couple of trees to be relocated. These are called out on this drawing here. The green trees will be relocated, and the light green trees are protected in place, including those street trees. Here you see the footprint of the existing house, and then you can see where there's a little piece bumped out here and the addition of the new kitchen. And what you can also see here is that both the left and right side of the house, the east and west, have been largely kept intact, and the bulk of the work is happening in the middle of the house. So here's a demo plan for there is only one story in the current configuration of the house. And then here you see the proposed plan. So we are relocating the entrance, so there's an actual entrance to the house, because at the moment you walk right into the living room, and that doesn't give the kids a place to land at the end of the day. So this is a preferred option to have some closets. We've reconfigured the lower level to have a primary bedroom and a guest room. And then the garage has been reconfigured to be the ADU. So what you see here is this portion of the ADU was at one point, is currently a laundry room with steps down to the garage. Over this portion of the garage, there is currently a loft. So that was where there was the confusion about, is it one or two? It's a single story with a loft that's already in the garage. So we will utilize that as a sleeping loft. And to just keep things simple, we're maintaining the floor plate here. So we're adding a stair to get both up to the loft and up to that floor plate. And then adding at the back a little bathroom. So it's a single car garage that we're extending to provide an ADU for the residents. And then the kitchen expands but largely stays in the same place. Same with the dining room, and there's a slightly more generous living room with a new stair to upstairs. Here you see the addition. Now I think something that's really important that we've really given a lot of thought to on this project is it's a little lot, and we're adding a second story. And so for us, thinking about how do we do that in such a way that we're really not overlooking neighbors, that we're really thoughtful about maintaining the basic character of the house. So the way we approached this, we said, let's just keep the two sides of the house So we're not adding height on either one of the neighbors at the side. So we've pulled up just in the middle of the house, this second story with bedrooms for the children. And so that means that this roof here has remained the same, and this roof here has remained the same, except for this little addition piece where we took a roof that mirrors the front and added to the back. So we've really tried to keep the character of the house very much, as it is today. So here are the elevations showing the area at which we're adding that second story in the middle. And here you see on the sides, the house really, there's very little change to the elevations down the east and west side of the house. And then this is that second story volume that we've added. And then there's the new entry here. And then these are the views from the two sides. So what you see is along the neighbors' sides, what you'll see is there'll be a low volume close to the neighbors on either side. And then here are a couple of views sort of telling more of the story, which I think is probably helpful for you guys to visualize it. And here you see a covered front entry that is the only really addition to this side of the house for the roof. A little bit of shade. This is south facing. There's a lot of sun on this side of the house. We've added a trellis just to provide a little bit of shade to that living area.
Time, you still have about 8.5 minutes left in case you need it, but if we could open up public comment for this item, please.
Thank you, Chair Kalas. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips. However, if you wish to speak, please fill out a slip and bring it to me. We did receive correspondence on this particular item from Jordana Snyder. And at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Kalas.
Thank you very much. I will open it up to the board for questions.
I was wondering if you could describe the material intent for the site wall that will come in the front yard.
So the current property is surrounded by plaster walls, and we would just like to extend those, and then the gates would be some kind of finished wood. So sort of simple, very Santa Barbara, and keeping what's already on site and just extending it.
I have a question. What is the plate height in the central area? Are you maintaining the existing plate height? Are you increasing that on the first floor and then also on the second floor?
So the current plate height, except at the garage because the floor drops there, the current plate height is 8 feet. We're maintaining that. And then for the second floor, we have an 8-foot plate as well.
Okay.
And then we're using the volume that we get from the gable. So we really are.
Yeah, we're just open
Okay,
forum for questions.
yeah. We talked about heights. We got some plate heights. With the overall height, though, of your ridge height, can you, I know it seemed large to me, so if you can go over
It was 22 and a bit, I believe.
22. Okay.
It's nearly 23, just shy of 23.
Yeah.
This one here.
Okay. Did you do, we typically like to see the adjacent neighbor structures, just footprints, so that we can, talk about neighborhood, good guidelines, privacy, windows.
Right, and we spent a lot of time thinking about that. They're both pretty far from the site, and so they weren't showing up on this drawing. If you look here, though, we did show them on the title sheet. Here you see all three neighbors. So there's a pretty good distance. This is a garage here. This neighbor is facing Alamar. And then what we have done in order to maintain distance, let me see if I can zoom in, that might help. Thanks. There we go. So this volume here is a single story, and that's the garage for the neighbor. And then this neighbor is rotated, so there's a pretty good distance between the residence and this. And again, this wing here is also single story, so it's just this middle portion between, if you see the two, so you're.
We asked the owners to talk with the neighbors, so I believe they have been talked to, but we didn't do it.
To the applicant team, please move closer to the microphone and turn it on. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, we talked to the neighbor, to the owners about showing the plans to the neighbors. So we can get back to you on whether that actually happened or not.
So these are the windows along that side, and then there's a 6-foot wall that runs in front of that with a hedge, and there's hedges on both sides of that. So it's pretty well planted.
That was one of my questions, whether the existing side property lines are in fact planted or hedged or.
There's a perimeter wall around the entire property, and then
Okay.
it's pretty significantly planted on all sides.
And that's like a 6-foot wall?
It's a
8-foot,
6-foot.
okay.
And that second floor is set back probably 20 feet or something from that east property line, roughly?
Let's go see. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, we've got we have the setback plus the width of bedrooms. So yeah, easily 20 feet before we get to that east wall.
Right, okay.
That's on the second.
Did you do any FAR studies, or we can ask you for that additionally, I guess?
I think that's the
under-
question that staff was
Right.
posing as to whether we were going to request any supplementary materials.
Okay. So I'm on the 6-foot wall. I believe, Holly, we're 42 inches in that first 10 feet. Is that code?
So, Chair Colossus, board members, the proposed wall, it's noted as under separate permit, so we can work that out. But if they're going to include it on
We'd
this
like to include
permit, okay, you'd need a minor zoning exception, so that includes an additional fee, and then the board weighs in on whether or not they approve that minor zoning exception at project design approval.
Okay. All right. And then the basic character, architectural style that you're going for, and materials and colors.
The materials would be stucco at the ground floor, and then the addition, we're looking at some kind of board, vertical board, maybe a board and batten. I mean, this is conceptual, so we're still determining what that is, but as you see here, we're showing some kind of vertical board or possibly board and batten at that addition. The house is currently white, it will stay white.
I had one
Okay.
more question. Chair Colossus, I had one more question
Yeah.
with that in mind about the wall that we're going to weigh in on now, and that is, that wall's supposed to be located, or it's being proposed to be located 10 feet setback. What would be the setback for them to not require an MZE? What's the front yard setback for one story, and that, is it 15 feet?
So they could propose a wall 3.5 feet in height within the
No, I
first
know,
10
but,
feet.
but what would be the setback that they would need to not have to go through an MZE for that wall to be 6 feet high?
They'd have to propose it outside of the 10 feet. It could be between 10 and, I think it's 20 feet for this lot, the front setback.
It would need to be at the 20-foot setback.
It would need to be, that's my question. What's the front yard setback?
You can propose a wall that's up to 8 feet tall after the 10 feet from the front property line.
But it
But it needs an MZE.
Yeah, no.
So the front yard setback is
Up to
6,
8 feet. Oh, sorry. No, you're right. Okay. Up to 12 feet, they would need the minor zoning exception.
so 12 feet
You would have to be
back.
at the 20-foot setback line. Apologies.
20 feet. You'd have to be 20 feet back to get the 6 feet without an MZE. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and colors?
White and the wood will either be painted white to match or probably a light gray.
Yeah, I think there was you had a couple of
Do you
photos. I think
have-
it was with the landscape that was kind of
It
giving
currently
us.
is white and green.
Yeah.
There we go. So these are the current colors for the house.
And I just thought of one more question.
And you're keeping those same colors?
No, there
We're
was,
keeping the white stucco. The green, we haven't decided yet where we're going with the colors on the house.
Okay,
That's
all
still to be
right.
determined.
Did you, so every one of these little houses on these lots have the garage door out in front, and now it's the ADU with the window. I'm just, were there other thoughts around that window on that, identity, neighborhood compatible? I know we're going second story and we're making changes, but Did you consider any other window in that ADU?
Well, we
where
were
the
showing
single-
a large window there,
Mhm.
somewhat in keeping with the size of that, but not making it so it's confusing as to where the garage is or whether there's a garage.
It's always a good idea to keep the cars from driving into the ADU.
So, we think so. So it's slightly larger. We were feeling that was a nod to the old garage door without saying, oh, maybe there's a garage here, sort of being clear about what that space is. And there are quite a few picture windows of that style in this neighborhood, so it's not it's very much in keeping with the neighborhood. Those exist quite a bit in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions?
Yeah, just one more.
Before we get to comments.
Are there any other walls in the neighborhood that are in the setback?
The hedges on the along Alamar is also, it's very close. Let me go back. You can see it here. So if you look,
So there's lots of hedges that
See
are
this
higher
here?
than 42 inches, but not, as far
Right.
as you know, not a lot of walls, like right at the property line, right? But
right, we're not proposing it at the property line.
No,
We're
I know,
proposing
I
10
know.
feet of landscaping and then a
Yeah,
wall.
yeah. Okay.
And it's really to mitigate sound in the house.
Okay.
So it needs to be tall enough to be effective.
Thanks.
One more question then. Would they be open at all to hedges with a soundproofing layer in between? In my mind, visually, a hedge is a little bit more welcoming if it's going to be taller, and a wall really.
Yeah, so they're very open to putting hedging in front of the wall if that's preferred.
Okay.
But I think the wall provides not just soundproofing, but also security. So I think with
Okay, so it's
young
not-
children, that's an important component of that wall.
Okay.
So it's both soundproofing and security. So I think we don't want to eliminate that wall, but we could put hedges on the other side, on the street side of it if that's preferred.
Okay.
Chair Claus, board members, I need to circle back to the MZE for a moment. I was correct the first time. You can go up to 8 feet within between 10 feet and 20 feet. So within the setback, it can be 8 feet without a minor zoning exception. Beyond
So
that,
I
it
thought
would
they
be the
were,
MZE.
I thought they were 10 feet.
from
They're
it right
10
now.
Correct. Because they're at the 10-foot mark from the front property line and they're over 3.5 feet, they need the MZE because of the 10-foot delineation. If they were between 10 and 20, then they could go up to 8
So if
feet.
they moved it back the
6
thickness of the wall, would that solve the problem?
So if they move, if they move the wall 6
Potentially,
inches
yeah.
back, then they wouldn't need an MZE.
We already did that. The wall is outside of the 10 feet.
Okay, so
So it
this is a
doesn't
staff
mean-
review.
Okay, great. Yeah,
It does not need,
So it's just design.
correct, okay.
great. Thank you.
Okay, so we no longer need to weigh in on the MZE, is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, any more questions before we get to comments? No. Okay, so before we start comments, or before all of the other comments that we might be thinking of, when each board member starts their comments, I would ask that you speak to the issue of supplemental materials and whether you feel those are needed because we are at a 99% FAR, which is a required FAR. Because I think we're going to have to provide direction to the applicant one way or the other in that regard. So if there's anybody that wants to start, they are welcome.
You wanted to?
I can, yeah. I'm struggling with the 99% and the small lots in that neighborhood, which I have a girlfriend that lives block up. So in order to justify the 99%, even though you have an ADU, thank you. Yes, I would like to see, generally I was looking and it's one on a block, just visual observation today where it's a 2-story. So, I mean, I'm just struggling with the size, and I understand, the want and the drive to push and get the square footage, but I think that would be valuable.
Okay, so perhaps when each board member so what I'm hearing from you is you probably want supplemental application materials. Maybe you could speak to the nature of the materials that you would want to see. Do you want to see a streetscape? Do you want to see an FAR study? Do you want to see a 20 closest? I think we need to give specific direction to the applicants as to what we would like to see. So it would be helpful to hear from each board member what each board member thinks that they need in order to make determinations one way or the other. So.
Well, our standard is a 20, but I'm willing to go down to 10 in the neighborhood, but I don't want to confuse things. I would just, I mean, to me, if you're going for 99%, the supplemental requirements should just be provided if you're
Okay.
asking for more.
So you're
Just
asking for all
generally.
supplemental materials that are typically required?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And just for our clarification, some of those are required over 100 and some of them are not. If you could make it really clear for us which ones of those you're listing, that would be really helpful.
We'll try to do that
Thank you.
in motion. Okay.
Did you have more comments?
They're up on the screen for reference too.
That's a good point, yes.
So are there any of these that you can imagine waiving? That's probably the easiest way to ask the question.
Yeah, I don't believe the story poles are really going to be valuable in this condition, but someone else can, have a different opinion. The street silhouettes are super helpful just to see how it relates to the adjacent neighbors and/or the block. But yeah, the 20 closest home FAR really helps substantiate compatibility for us.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Anybody else ready to make comments?
I'll go. I think I'm in agreement that story poles seem unnecessary for the street silhouette. I think simply the height of the neighbor visually to the left and like the hedges to the right, because you can't see the building when you're looking at it. I do think giving the push of the FAR, I'd recommend taking a look at least the 10 closest, but if you are able to study further, if that's in support for you guys, because we're really pushing it. I think the floor plan and the site plan work really well for the property, for function. I am quite hesitant on the wall and would like opportunities or studies of how to soften it and feel, whether the gate or the entrance feels more like the front door and welcoming, and maybe there is foliage as a part of it, or and then also if you don't mind adjusting your south front view to be at eye level in the next review and studying it. I think we're not quite towards materials. I do think there's an opportunity to make the garage window, let's say, could potentially, not necessarily, but have the divided lights that are kind of in a proportion similar to a garage door if you wanted. I don't think it's necessary, but could add some sort of detailing at that first level. Very interested in seeing the proposed materials. For general size and bulk, I think they've done a good job of concentrating that on the center, of pulling any windows away from neighbors. I don't think right off the bat that the overall height is a concern to me, but I am interested. The highest point of it is what's kind of adding that bulk. And so if there's potential for that to come down just a little bit, I think it would drastically help the overall bulk. And I guess that makes me question my FAR thing as well. 99% is really kind of pushing it, but I think our bigger concern is size, bulk, and scale. So I may hear what the other board members say and kind of change my tune.
Okay. Ms. Graffitti?
Yeah, agree with a lot of what has been said. I really do appreciate the way the second story has been thoughtfully placed. In terms of, and I agree, I think materials are going to be really important. I am struggling with the front wall. I think the fact that there's a second story in a neighborhood where there isn't historically a lot of them, plus a wall. I mean, most of the homes that I saw in the neighborhood, it was single story and very inviting kind of entry. And I don't think I think it's okay. I think the way that you're building the second story, I think it can work and be compatible. But just then adding as well the front wall and the way that it's depicted here, I'm struggling with it. So I agree. If there's any way that you can soften that with vegetation, or just think about, I don't know. Yeah, reducing the height. I wish I had more ideas ready for you, but yeah, struggling with that one. I think in terms of supplemental material of FAR of the 10 closest would be great. Maybe the two houses on either side flanking for a streetscape, but I wouldn't necessarily require that, and I wouldn't need more than that. And that's it.
Ms. Sherry?
Yeah, I think that the treatment of the wall and the height, I mean, there's actually a big difference between a 5-foot wall and a 6-foot wall in terms of, psychological effect on a sidewalk and neighborhood, and that harkens to the neighborhood compatibility issue. So a 6-foot wall can tend to appear kind of fortress-like, and then also landscaping, as was mentioned, is going to be really important. But you're building a 2-story, and then you're building a big wall in front of your house, and so that's the kind of things we're looking at for neighborhood compatibility findings. And about the 99%, I just looked up our trusty single-family design board Bible, and I'll just make a statement. I just remembered this one sentence out of it that says, projects over 85% of the maximum FAR are more likely to propose neighborhood compatibility issues and are generally discouraged. However, careful design and review can sometimes produce projects that are still compatible. And then it goes on to say that, and then since you're so close to the 100%, when they talk about exceeding that FAR, they go on to mention in the compatibility findings, some project sites with special physical features, when combined with exceptional design, can accommodate over maximum FAR. So you're kind of like right there, where I think that what you need to concentrate on now, and everybody else has mentioned it, is your design elements, which is why I brought up that entry gable and how you treat that, because even if you end up getting a 5-foot wall approved in front of it, somebody hopefully can look over and see your house that you've spent a lot of time designing and building so beautifully. And so we're going to be looking for, how those charm-giving elements and what is the style? What are you doing with the style? I noticed you clipped your eaves like the original house is, but maybe the second floor eave doesn't have to be clipped. It's not. I don't think it's helping the design. I think there's ways to incorporate more charm-giving elements and design features in the form of the entryway, and some of the ways you detail the windows and fenestrations can really help that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pretty much agree.
To that, did you have FAR requirements that you wanted to see, or no?
She was saying the 10 closest lots, I think. Or maybe.
I'm just kind of looking at this house. This is a neighborhood that's going to be in transition, and I think that big exercise of going through and trying to find the square footages, and I could give or take that. I'm kind of looking at this house because as a house, because other people are going to, I don't think that the 99% is necessarily making this a non-compatible project. Yeah.
Can I say two things that I realized I forgot to say?
Sure, go ahead.
One is with this wall, the house is up from the wall, so the 6 feet is basically the minimum we can really get, because it's about 4 feet for the soundproofing at the house, because of the way those slopes work. So that it's just a matter of how do we prevent the sound from Alamar getting into the house, and we need a certain amount of height to accomplish that. So that was one thing. And then the other thing I wanted to add was, you were talking about the gables, and I just wanted to point out the slope of the roof matches the slope of the existing roof. And we felt that was an important thing to respect, so that it just felt like one building. So I just wanted to add that. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I generally agree with what the rest of the board members have said. I think the way you address issues in the house is through proper insulation and dual pane windows. And I say that because I live on the 192, and we used to have single glazed windows, and I put in double glazed, and I can sleep at night now. So I don't really think that the site wall is where you get that silence. And I can appreciate the security issue for children, but I think that could be accomplished with a 4-foot wall. If the kids are jumping a 4-foot wall, then their parents need to do some disciplining, frankly. So, not that I'm going to tell these people how to parent their children, but a 4-foot wall should be adequate unless they have a large dog that's going to jump it or something else, and I would imagine that would be in the backyard. So from a neighborhood compatibility standpoint, I drove down Calle Noguera today, and I went on to, I'm trying to Paseo, something that as you cross Alamar there, it becomes another road and then ends up back near the Natural History Museum. And really for about 3 to 4 blocks, of which this is right in the middle, they're pretty much all one-story houses, right? So you guys are kind of the guinea pigs here, right? And so that puts us in a difficult position to make findings, because how do we find that a 2-story house is compatible, right? So I think we are going to need these supplemental materials just in order to be able to speak to that. I agree that the story poles aren't necessary for this particular project. I agree with Ms. Sherry's comments about trying to reintroduce some charm-giving elements. In terms of like my general quick, response to the architecture, I immediately think like Robert Stern or something like that, very sort of like clean, clipped, which can be beautiful, but it is different than what we're used to in the neighborhood. And I'm trying to, I think you guys have done a great job keeping the 2 side volumes low, and that's like one of the things that's sort of in the Bible, and you guys have done a great job with that. Very much appreciated, because it really keeps the volume down next to the neighbors. Part of me, and I know this is a gable roof on the existing house, and you're trying to be true to that, but part of me wonders if it were a hipped condition on the 2nd floor and you had a shed roof coming at you when you're looking at the house, if it would help to bring down the perceived volume or height of the addition, and if it would soften that. In other words, if you had, again, like a low profile on that started talking to the lower roof. And I'm a little bit concerned about the amount of overlap related to the 2 wings and the upper story volume. It feels, clearly it will be structurally supported, but visually it feels top-heavy to me. So I think there are some ways you could deal with that. Maybe instead of a trellis, maybe it's a shed roof down at the lower level. Maybe, that's your job. You guys are the architects, so I don't want to design it for you. But I think there is some more massaging that's needed. But I think the general approach of trying to maintain the 2 side volumes as you have is the right thing to do. else did I have here?
Can I add
Do
to it
we
while-
have the, has this been reviewed for open yard space? Is that, we have open yard space in the backyard there? Okay, so you're not using the front yard for, okay. And again, from a neighborhood compatibility standpoint, I really do think that if you can use a hedge or reduce the wall and plant it in the front, even if they want something very modern on the inside, I think it would speak volumes, so to speak, in terms of your desire to be a part of this neighborhood if you were to plant the front of the wall.
Understood. And I think we were showing that in the landscape sections and plans.
Yeah, and
So
that one
there's-
cut, yeah,
there's
you
all
were,
that
you
planting
had some
there.
nice, robust.
And then, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I do agree with Ms. Lewis's comment that adjusting the renderings to be at eye level would be helpful for us. Those are my comments. Would anybody like to try a motion here? So we need to speak to supplemental applications. It sounds like we have general agreement on waiving certain aspects of that, specifically the story poles.
Putting those back up on the screen.
I think it would be helpful to see a basic footprint or a Google image, a satellite image, so we can understand better the relationship of this property to the corner one on Alomar.
like a Google Earth view?
Yeah, even that would be helpful, just so that we can understand that, and we can see more clearly, okay, this is planted, they're not going to be looming over, looking over the backyard. We can just, assuage our own fears in terms of privacy issues for neighbors.
Would that be in lieu of the street silhouette and elevation, or would that be in addition to it?
I'm not saying that that would be in lieu, yeah,
Tradition.
yeah.
So I can start with the
Great.
motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to continue our project back to the full board with the following items.
Is that indefinitely? Or you can-
Indefinitely.
Okay.
We would typically, not
I know,
say
I'm
in
just
2
trying-
weeks.
just
Yeah.
trying to be clear.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, that whole indefinitely doesn't really do a whole lot for me. That's why I leave it out, but I'm sorry. So the supplemental items to help us justify the 99% FAR is the FAR studies, the street silhouettes, and Google image with footprints at least of the two adjacent neighbors. So those are supplemental requirements to bring back. And then the general comments are to review the height of the front plaster wall. The height in general is a concern if we understand the noise, but if you can reduce the height, I think that we could justify neighborhood compatibility with the reduced height, since there's just not many other walls in the neighborhood yet. There's a few white picket fences. So I know I'm not being crystal clear. We'll probably have to reread, but that's item,
I'm gonna try to help
Okay, all
clarify
right,
after
good.
you're done, so just go ahead and we'll see if we can get there.
Then, yes, I'm sure you're going to review architectural style, further fenestration, bring back materials and colors for us, potentially study different roof solutions on that second floor to bring the scale down, and look at balancing the second floor on the two sides. And then, yeah, the final item was to come back with the renderings at eye level.
Okay, I'll second I'll second that motion, not that emotion. And It's getting late. That's almost what I seconded. So I'll second that motion, and to more articulately, to try to more succinctly say what we're talking about in terms of our supplemental materials. We want supplemental materials, but we are waiving the story poles and we are waiving the panoramic photo sim. So we'd like to see the street elevations and the 20 closest home survey, as well as the Google image that was previously noted. And I think the general direction in regards to the wall has been, yes, the wall needs to be reduced to the greatest degree possible, and it needs to be planted on the public side so that the wall will become obscured visually over time. Is that acceptable to the maker of the motion?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'll resecond that motion then, and if we could please take a roll call.
And just to clarify, that's to come back for preliminary?
We're returning you back to the board for conceptual, but if you're ready for preliminary at the time as deemed by staff, that's acceptable to us
That would be
also.
great.
Yes.
Thank you.
It'll just be an indefinite continuance. When the project's complete, we can schedule for project design approval.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if we could take a roll call, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair Claus. Chair Claus?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Board Member Lewis?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
both very much. Okay, last but not least. 33 Braemar Drive. A proposal to demolish an existing detached 550 square foot accessory structure, which is a horse barn, 2 sheds, which are each 113 square feet, and to instead construct a new detached 1,063 square foot accessory structure, which will also be a horse barn. This is in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the city's coastal zone. A single-unit residence, detached garage, and accessory dwelling unit are under separate permits. They're not a part of this proposal, and they're not under the SFDB purview, although we did see that project previously. The proposed barn would require a ministerial coastal exemption and review and approval of a floor area mod by the staff hearing officer. The proposed total of 6,729 square feet of development on a 50,779 square foot lot is 133% of the maximum, operative word, guideline floor to lot area ratio. This is a one-time pre-application consultation. No final appealable action will take place at this meeting. Neighborhood preservation findings, hillside designs district, and slope lot findings would be required if this project came back to us for project design approval. Is there anything that staff wants to share with us about this?
Yes, thank you, Chair, board members. So, as you see here in the project description, it's a one-time review under a PRE, and meaning they've filed for non-binding comments conceptually. The applicant submitted now in order to get feedback before compiling and submitting for a formal PLN planning application. So at this time, they're looking for constructive feedback and comments specific to the proposed accessory structure, that horse barn. And the SFDB's purview today is specific for size, bulk, scale, aesthetic appropriateness, siting, and neighborhood compatibility. And just wanted to mention that per the municipal code, the keeping of horses is allowed on this parcel. Thank you. I'm here if there's questions.
Just out of curiosity, how many horses can they keep on this parcel?
I believe it's up to 5, but it depends on parcel size.
Thank you.
But up to 5 is the max.
Okay, if you would please present yourselves and your project to us, we would greatly look forward to that.
I present to you. I'm Steve Howes, and
I'm Shelby Jenke with Suzanne Elledge Planning.
I realized that I left my reading glasses at the office, so.
provide photos, but they might help you, the bottom might help you.
Yeah, that helps. Do I look good?
You look great on you.
Thank you.
Great, Steve.
Okay, Shelby's going to kick it off.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Kalas and board members. I'll just do a quick introduction. I might reiterate a little bit of what Holly said, but again, we're here for a one-time concept review for this proposed new horse barn. As she mentioned, a modification is required by the staff hearing officer, as the barn at 1,063 square feet exceeds the 500 square foot maximum size for accessory buildings, so a modification is required. And we're here to get your helpful feedback on the aesthetics and design in terms of supportability of the modification. I'll note that the existing residence and detached garage are currently under construction. We have also submitted a separate application for an accessory dwelling unit that will be located above the detached garage. It's, as you know, not subject to SFDB purview, but it is shown on this elevation, this view that Steve will show you. And as you mentioned, the FAR is a guideline. We have shown two FAR calculators on the title sheet, one that excludes the ADU and one that includes it for reference. So the 133% of the max FAR is including that ADU. Excluding it, we're at 122% of the guideline. And my last comment, just something worth noting, this is in the coastal zone, subject to Title 28. If this were not in the coastal zone under Title 30, a modification would actually not be required for that, the size of the barn, as the accessory building size is larger. We'd hope Title 30 would be in the coastal zone soon, but here we are. Steve?
Okay. Some of you were on the board when the residence was reviewed. The existing residence was demolished, and this is in the green and green gable style house style. What's that? So we wanted to show with the ADU and give you context of how little of the barn that you see, and I also brought some pictures of the existing barn so you can see this should be a big improvement. And what we're proposing is just a very simple, humble barn. It wouldn't.
City TV, please zoom in.
Oh. That was you speaking. Yeah, that works. So a simple, humble barn, not trying to match the house. Fire retardant treated, shakes would not really be appropriate on a horse barn anyway, but the roofing material will match. And our other objective in building this barn is the proposed house, or the house that's under construction. The roof is rather cut up and there's skylights, so it's really a challenge getting a lot of solar on there. And so the barn has a perfect south exposure to put all the solar there. This being a one-time concept review, there's not a lot of detail on the barn plans because first we need to know that you're accepting of what we're proposing. And second of all, that we can get a modification. So once we do that, we'll dive into details and stuff. And you can see on the site plan there all the solar panels going on the south side of the barn. And it's a very simple floor plan. So I always wonder I'm usually on the other side of the table. People have a hard time with this, and I'm always giving them advice on what to do next. Anyway, it's 2 stalls and a tack room and a storage. We also have a 10,000-gallon water tank, and that is because it turned out the buried rainwater harvesting cisterns that we had were prohibitively expensive. So we proposed to do this instead. You can see on this partial site plan, the dashed lines, there's a longer rectangle that represents the location of the existing barn, and then there are a couple square dashed outlines. There were 2 sheds. One was required to be removed with the approval of the house, and we would be removing the other one, and it's also what you were seeing in those pictures there. So it doesn't come any further forward than the existing, and it's downhill from the house, so really very little of it shows. Let's see, and we'll go to the elevations and go out a little bit. Okay, so the north elevation is showing what you would see from the street if you really moved around and were looking for it. And that's the water tank. The east elevation would be facing the swimming pool on the site. No, I'm sorry, it would be facing the neighbor. And what we propose to do is to plant a hedge to screen the water tank. And I don't have a suggestion from our landscape architect yet on what that would be, but something, to grow. That tank is about 12 feet tall, so something that is approximately the same height and would thoroughly screen it. So like I say, the details have yet to be worked out. The siding would probably be hardy panel with battens. And, just traditional barn stuff. What is that? Oh, that's the house under construction. What's that?
Yeah, house
Yeah.
under construction.
Okay. Yeah, it's in the framing stage, so there's not a lot to show. So I guess that concludes my presentation, unless you have questions.
I think it's pretty cut and dry. Okay, so you have plenty of time left if you need to tell us more, about 8.5 minutes.
Well, like I say, not a lot of detail yet, so
Yeah,
nothing to
it's
go into.
pretty simple. Okay, so Ms. Garson, I'll ask you to open, do we have public comment for these preliminary items, or are neighbors noticed, or do we not take public comment for these?
Chair Kloss, the neighbors were noticed for this project. We did not receive written correspondence, and I will turn it over to Ms. DeFell for in person.
Great, thank
And I
you.
don't think I need your glasses. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips, and I see no one in the audience moving to make a comment. So at that, I can turn it back over to you, Chair Kloss.
Okay, great. Okay, so we are open to questions from the board. Any questions?
Sure. Heights. Can you just go over the heights of the barn and maybe the relating structures, even though I don't know how not to look at the other structures on the site and just focus on this. So bear with me as I struggle with the fact that we are looking at this, but if you can comment on how it ties in with the rest of the house and colors, materials, that would be of value to me.
Well, having relinquished the glasses, I think it's 22 feet 4 inches.
It's 23 feet 4 inches.
Oh, okay. Well, I was close.
And the two-story in front covers it?
Yeah, well, the
Okay.
second-story ADU on the garage, and then also the residence has a partial second story, and it's downhill from the house, so.
Right.
It's not really going to stand out as a tall structure or imposing, or, also, I
And
don't
it's
think.
rotated too, right?
Let's see, I want to go back to the very, I guess it'd be the second page. Okay. So I prepared this, if I can find it, no, don't do that.
That's
Got
helpful.
my context.
Oh, there you
map.
go. Perfect. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So we can see neighbor.
I'm looking for my context map. Here it is. So, using
Oh,
the wonders of Google Earth, let's, there we go, it's a little better. So I show all the residences and the barns that are in the neighborhood. It's a pretty agrarian kind of neighborhood, so this is not out of place at all.
Is there, it appear, maybe go to the Google image, Mr. House, that's up above on this sheet. It appears like, appears as though there's some pretty good planting along the easterly property line back until you get to the neighbor's hedge that runs in an east-west direction, and then it looks like it might just be fenced. Is there any planting there on your easterly property line currently?
I think your observation is correct. There is hedge, but it does kind of taper out and is mostly fenced by the time you get back to the barn. So we could certainly entertain some additional landscaping.
Do you know about how tall that fence is? Is it 5, 6
think it's a
feet?
6.
It's a 6, okay. All right. Any
And
other-
you can see what's to the east of that fence is a riding rink and a barn.
Yeah.
So not somebody's bedroom or anything.
Right, yeah. Probably be compatible with what you end up with. Okay, any other questions? All right, comments. So we're looking to give the applicant general comments in terms of whether we could support this, in terms of the increased FAR, positive comments for them to potentially go to planning commission with, although they may have to come back to us
To
for
staff
conceptual
hearing
before
officer.
that. Yeah, staff hearing officer. Ms. Lewis?
Okay, I'll go first. It looks like a barn. It looks like a good barn.
Talks like a barn. walks like a barn.
Yeah, I think it's an improvement to the existing barn structure. I am not concerned at all with the FAR given the neighborhood and similar scale of properties around there with the barns and the homes. I want to see and agree with you of doing plantings around the water storage tank. It looks like it's pretty well screened from the neighbors. Otherwise, I would have suggested flipping the sides that it's on. But I think given the other site context, it makes sense where it is. And overall, I think it fits well architecturally with the other homes on the property.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments?
I agree with everything that Board Member Lewis said. I think it's a really nice project.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Nope, I agree.
Yo también.
Okay. Yeah, I think so. I think so too.
Muchas gracias.
I'm very, I'm interested in what material the tank would be.
It would be a resin tank.
Okay.
Not a shiny stainless steel or galvanized tank.
Kind of a bummer. Go ahead. Anyhow.
Well, the thing is, it comes in some colors like a dark green or medium gray, that sort of thing. So something,
Something neutral.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's great. I would like to see some plantings along the property line to ensure that there's a little bit of buffer there. And I guess, when it comes time maybe to come back to us, we would want to see some colors. I don't think it necessarily needs to be as dark as the main residence and the accessory unit are going to be. You might want to, this might be the folly on the site, right? Like this might be what was there before.
Hot paint.
Or, I don't know. I mean, you might be able to do something really fun with this. So but generally I think the architectural style is, maybe that's the one thing that was kept before the house was built by Green and Green or
Yeah.
Mr. House or whatever. So, yeah, I'm fully in support. I can support the FAR, given the lot size and the neighborhood and the location. And I think it will be, I agree with Ms. Lewis, I think it will be a vast improvement over the existing barns there. In essence, you're just kind of occupying the floor area that already is being used for this purpose, but you're just upgrading it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very supportable.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you need from us?
I'll make a motion.
I mean, yeah, we do still need a motion with formalized comments, please. So again, size, bulk, scale, aesthetic appropriateness, neighborhood compatibility.
But is the motion to continue the project or
It's
what?
just so that they can have
I
they're
know,
not
I want to
binding
know what
comments.
I moved to blank.
It's a one-time
Indefinite, yeah.
pre-concept review, so you can't
Okay.
continue it. It'd be a new application.
Okay, I move to provide one-time pre-application comments, including that the board generally supports the size, bulk, and scale of the proposed barn. The board is generally in support of the square footage and FAR, given the property size and compatibility with the neighbors and associated structures on the existing property. The board is in support and encourages screening of the water tank with landscaping and is interested in seeing the proposed colors and materials of the proposed barn. The board is in support of the given architectural language, that it's compatible with the main house and ADU, but does not necessarily need to match it, and encourages further study of that.
I second that motion.
About the emotion?
That's, yes, I was.
Under discussion, when you say encourage further study, just want to make sure that doesn't mean that we're asking them to change anything. It's more of a refinement.
Correct. That,
Further
correct.
refinement.
Encourage it is just making sure that it doesn't say required, but that allowing that our board is okay if the design comes back a little bit different.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. We
Ready
have a
for
motion, we have a
motion?
second. We'll take a roll call, please.
Okay, roll call. Chair Claus?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Board Member Lewis?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you for your patience
Merry
today.
Christmas if we don't see you again.
Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, Joyeux Noel,
go.
Happy Kwanzaa,
Frohe Weihnachten.
and that also, yeah.
So happy, and so are you. No.
And with that, we will adjourn.
Bid you adieu.